Hey everyone, today is Thursday, the 11th of February 2021. This is The Gap, episode 552. I'm Luke Lawrie. Joab Gilroy's here. As always, how's your week going, Joab? Anything exciting going on?
No, I wouldn't say anything exciting necessarily. Regular old week. Your old pal Jobo. Just trying to move the chains. That's a Super Bowl reference.
Superb owl.
The superb. That was. Did you watch the game? It was so fucking boring.
Did.
Oh my god. Like, it didn't help that for whatever reason, the refs decided that the Bucks were going to win.
Yeah, they were like, we're going for the other team.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to be all Aisha Curry, right? Yeah. But that game was fixed. I saw it live. Whether for ratings or money, sorry. Yeah. That was fucking banana. That was gross. Like, every fucking halfway. Like, you know, I'm not a fucking NFL expert, but I've played a couple hundred games of Madden, and I think I know enough of the rules. Every fucking 50-50 fucking call that could have gone down in that game somehow went the Bucks' way, including some that I don't even think were fucking 50-50 calls. Like, heinous. It was just shit. It was just shit to watch. There was that fucking interception that they overturned in like the first quarter, was it? Second quarter, maybe?
Right.
Oh my god, I hated that. That was it. That was the game. The game ended right there, basically. It could have been an interesting one. No. There was just a blowout for the rest of that. It was shit. So I don't know. That's it. That's what I get. Basically, every now and then I trick myself into believing that I will like something, and then I remind myself why I hate it. Yeah. And that's the NFL, and it's also the first game we're going to talk about this week, Magic the Gathering. Because I hate Magic the Gathering. Again,
you're back
to hating it.
I'm back to
hating it. I was back on the train. I played fucking loads of it this week. And what I thought I could do was iterate my way out of the nightmare that is land. And you just can't do it, right? And worse still, it appears that everyone knows that, right? Like, people who play Magic, who love Magic, just like openly recognize that you're just going to get, you'll get land screwed. That'll happen. All right. Well, it's probably one of the shittiest ways to lose. Like, it is the equivalent of when you're playing a battle royale and the circle ends on some position that you can't possibly reach, like up a mountain or something. It's the equivalent of losing a game to that, in which case you are being land screwed in Warzone, and I have been land screwed in Warzone. But in Warzone, right, that happens 1 out of 200 times, maybe less. 1 out of 250 to 500 times. And in Magic, it happens every other fucking game, and it's infuriating. Well, it certainly happens every other fucking game in Magic the Gathering Arena. I'm not playing the paper game because I'm not sitting across from another human being whose hygiene may or may not be questionable. And also in Arena, I can just sort of churn through, and that, you know, iterative process that I was chasing is a lot easier to do, right? So what I was doing was trying to find the right balance of cards, land cards, and actual cards to make a reasonable deck. Right, and I'm by no means an expert at deck building in Magic. I don't know everything that I'm going to come up against. Rather, I don't know like what I should be attempting to account for or anything like that. But I did play, I would say 70 to 80 games over the course of the last week. I played for fucking hours. Played on my phone. It's not the ideal way to play if you don't know 100% what you're doing in Magic. But I played a lot of Magic, and I did have a good feel of the particular pitfalls that my deck could fall into, and I think I shored them up quite well. I had board clear, I had single target clear, I had a decent amount of like ability to like a survivability, and I had a good idea of what my win conditions were for my deck. So what I was playing a red black deck. Like I said last week, I got given a shit ton of like packs for Kaldheim's release, 45 packs in Arena for Kaldheim's release. I opened them up, and the most interesting cards that I got were a black card called Turgid, and I think God of Fright, and a black-red card with sort of like the main character of Kaldheim, Valky, the God of Lies, who came with a Planeswalker on his reverse side. He was two-sided, Valky, and whatever this fucking Planeswalker's name is. I can't remember. I just referred to him as fucking Valky because 90% of the time what I was using for him for was Valky. I'm just gonna look it up. Like the Planeswalker was pretty interesting, although I felt like they didn't. Tybalt is, I think, almost the main character Planeswalker for Kaldheim as well.
What's his name? Tibbles?
Tybalt.
Oh, okay.
So I made this red black deck. It was 90. I was like 75% black, 25% red. Entirely, like red black, like focused on that. Because it's Arena. You don't have the same problems I think that people used to run into with like you'd have to pursue these two, you got land cards that suffices two types, red or black. You didn't really have to chase that down all that much. You can just sort of like you've got access to a fuck ton of them. Although you got access to all your basic land cards, and you make these other ones pretty easily via the card crafting system, which is good. And so I made a 72 card deck. The minimum you can have is 60. I made 72 cards, and just sort of put together this deck. So I started off with, they recommend you start off, like if it's a 60 card deck, you start off with 25 cards. I started off with 29 because, like I was saying last week, the new ability in Kaldheim is, well, one of the new abilities is Foretell, which allows you to pay mana early on to create to lower the cost. So basically, you pay 2 mana, and next turn that card costs 2 mana less. And I felt like that was actually a really good solution for being land fucked. In that you don't have enough land. So I felt like that actually would be appropriate, and so I didn't put as many cards in as I thought I would need to. And then I sort of just iterated over the course of the next bunch of games, putting in an extra card here or there. And I went all the way up to 34, and I found that I was just getting way too many fucking land cards too often. I was still occasionally getting no land cards. I would finish a game with 3 land on deck, and like it would just be non-stop fucking other cards, which is just a nightmare. Especially considering 40 fucking think 48% of my deck was fucking like nearly half of my fucking cards were land, which meant that on the back end of this game, if it had dragged out any further, and my style of gameplay, the Valky style of play, is pretty halting. I'm attempting to stall these my enemies out quite a bit until I can get all my shit online. So what I was going to wind up having is just land card after land card after land card. And that was going to be infuriating on the back end. I dropped it all the way back down to 31 out of the 72 cards. And that seemed like a decent amount. I played in ranked. I actually went undefeated through the bronze ranks, which I think makes sense because it's bronze. But I just belted my way through bronze. And then when I got to silver, I got like halfway through the lowest rank of silver. And then I had 3 games in a row where all I fucking drew were lands. And it's not like I feel like I'm doing everything correctly in this game, right? I read up as much as I could to make sure that I wasn't that I was giving it whatever advantage I could. Because I wanted to make a good deck, right? Like I wanted the deck that I'd made to actually function well and like do well. Otherwise, why would I be playing ranked, right? And yeah, I just got land fucked, like proper land fucked. So I would mulligan if I had less than 3 land cards, or more than 4, but that inexplicably never happened. I suppose they were just waiting to be drawn instead of fucking put into my starting hand. So I mulligan. The last game I played, I had to mulligan away twice because somehow I didn't get any lands. I got like 1 land in the first draw and 2 in the second. I'm like, I can't risk this. And then naturally I drew nothing but fucking lands, and I had to discard twice. That was it. That was enough. Like I was like, I uninstalled the game. I uninstalled the game on the fucking spot when somehow managing to get out because I'd had it in my hand. And like I played this really cleverly. Like I felt like that's the thing. That's what keeps people coming back to Magic, is that like you play really cleverly and you feel really smart. And like you do these things. So what happened in this game was Valky / Tybalt, right? He was in my hand from the get-go, what little hand I had. And I managed to play him on turn 2. And when I say I got nothing but land, I did get like a few pieces here or there, but it was like overwhelmingly land. Like just land. And by the end, like the last, I don't know, 4 draws were nothing but land. It was infuriating. Anyway, I played Valky. Valky's ability is when Valky enters the battlefield, he's a 2-mana card, he's 7 mana on the flip side. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand, and Valky can exile one of those cards and place it underneath him. And at any time, he can spend the mana cost of without accounting for the color mana, like the color of the mana, just a colorless mana. He can spend that cost to become that card. And so what I usually do is, especially what I was doing in ranked games, was on turn 2 he would show up, I'd play him, and I'd be able to see the entirety of like the other team's fucking cards, which is huge, right? It was fantastic for learning the game as well. Like it was a fantastic resource for understanding what they were trying to do and what I could expect to see from like decks that would do certain things and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, generally what I would do is I wouldn't pick the most powerful card in their deck. What I do is I would pick something that I felt was going to fuck them as hard as possible, because that's what you want to do. So in this instance, what I saw was I believe this character, I can't remember if it was this game or the one before it, but what they were, I believe, trying to do is play a bunch of adventure cards, which is a style of card that I don't really understand all that well, but it seems like you can sort of play it one way or play it a different way. Like you can play it as an instant spell, and that turns it into an adventure, and then you can play it from your exile as a regular card, but they know what it is or something like that. Anyway, they had a card that would be buffed quite heavily if they played a lot of adventures. And I'd seen before that what they tended to do was play that card early and then buff it into a place where I would have to draw target creature removal, or I'd be fucked. And so I took that card from them, and I didn't even intend on necessarily turning into it, because it's not a powerful card if you don't have adventures. And I didn't have adventures, so I wasn't necessarily planning on turning into it. I was just restricting it from them, keeping it from them, so that they would have to play their adventures without also buffing this card. They've still got a good deck. It's not like they're only win condition, but it is like a common, in my experience, a common way for them to sort of dismantle me very quickly. And so I took that out of their hand, and then I played like normal as much as I could, doing my best to just sort of persist for as long as possible, until I realized all I was getting was fucking lands. And then what I did was I just really blatantly sacrificed Valky. I just threw him away, basically. In a like just a really obvious play that. So I had a card. I was taking a card in that would allow me to give any of my creatures +2, and when they die, they return from the graveyard to the battlefield, which was fantastic on Valky and a number of other cards in my deck, because when I played it, he would get to like enter the battlefield again. And when he enters the battlefield, you look at their entire fucking hand and take whatever you want. And it was a fantastic way when like they'd drawn a bunch of cards and you could see that they were ramping up to something. It was a fantastic way to sort of just see their entire hand again, and maybe pick a different card from the piece, from that selection, and screw them in a different manner. Right? They may have altered all of their plans because you've taken away their strategy. So they've gone to plan B, and then you take away plan B and give them plan A back. But plan A doesn't necessarily work anymore. So you feel smart for that. And then what happened next was the next turn I sacrificed Valky again. And I had mana in hand, and I had cards in hand, and they didn't know what was going to happen. So they just let the damage through. They didn't want me to see their hand again and take something else. And I just kept doing this until they killed Valky, and they got their card back. They got their plan B back. I got Valky back, but I had enough mana at this point to cast the Planeswalker. And I'm like, that's fucking smart, right? That worked out really well. I took shit, like I eked a load of damage away from them. I've done really well at this shit. I managed to play my Planeswalker. That's what I do is, I exile away their top-notch creature to save myself from, lethal damage. And then next turn, what I'll do is I'll take a card from their deck, and I'll take a card from my deck, and I can finally get some fucking card draw going, so I can maybe get through this nightmare of non-stop fucking lands, which has happened to me the last 2 fucking games in a row, and I'll just fucking power through. And then I exile the top card on both decks, and it was a land from them and a land from me. And I'm like, all right, great. So I can't, and I'd already played a land that turn. So I just had fucking extra lands in hand. Useless. And they, on the other side, drew another creature and filled out the board more. And so they had a full fucking board of stuff. And all I needed to do was from what was left of my fucking thing. I had 2 attempts to draw. All I needed to do was draw like any of my board removal, because like most of this fucking deck was sub fucking 3 health. And so I could very easily wipe most of them away. And what I drew on the initial draw on my actual turn was land. And then when I exiled a card from both fucking decks, I drew land, and I'm like, that's it. I'm fucking done with this game. I cannot do this anymore. That is fucking idiotic. Like, it cannot happen like that, right? Like, I understand fucking statistics and RNG, but 3 fucking games in a row. And what's worse is that you can't fucking talk to anyone about this, right? Like, it's like they're so fucking browbeaten by the concept of being land fucked that people are just like, yeah, you get land fucked. That's how fucking Magic works. Stop fucking whinging about it, right? If you don't like it, don't fucking play. Okay, I won't play, right? That's about the only fucking option I've got left, because you try to have a conversation with people about it, and that's how Magic works, right? If you don't have land, then you don't have the variance that makes the game interesting, right? And variance is everything, right? There's no better way to get variance. If you like the Hearthstone style of always getting mana, right, then go fucking play Hearthstone. Oh, you're not playing Hearthstone because you're bored with it, because there's no variance, right? Variance is what makes Magic the Gathering interesting. Yeah, okay, I got bored with Hearthstone, but I rage quit Magic. Surely drifting away from a game is better than rage quitting. Like, am I crazy on that shit? Right? Like, surely the player experience is, it's just infuriating. I'm just not going to play fucking competitive card games anymore, I think. Like, I don't, that's the thing, right? The defense that Magic has, right? The defense that Magic has is that, yes, I do think that the mana system in Hearthstone inevitably leads to boredom, right? Because you will see the same archetypes over and over again. Even though I also think that those archetypes are all present in Magic, there is that amount of variance that I think results in slightly more dynamic games if you can somehow swallow the massive amount of anger that you feel. Like, I think people who still play Magic just accept being land fucked as a part of life. And because I worked really hard, because I came back to Magic knowing it was probably what was going to upset me, I worked really hard to try to solve it, right? And then I ran into the fact that it just can't be solved, and that was it, right? That was the end of the fucking line for me. Like, yeah, in Magic's defense, I don't think it can be solved, right? Like, otherwise the game would have fucking solved it, right? And the best that I've seen is the Hearthstone manner of everyone gets, but you wind up in these situations where everyone just plays what was it was Jade Druids, right? That's when I quit Hearthstone, because everyone was just playing the same fucking deck over and over again. In Magic, they're not playing the same deck. They're playing, I don't know, one of the
different colored lands.
Yeah, 1/6 of the same deck. But they're basically playing. You see the occasional really interesting thing, but it's broadly the same stuff. And it's tricky, right? I don't know what you do.
You can't. That's the thing. Like, that's the game. That is just how the game works. It's based off of random chance, and like you're sort of dealing with the things that you get, and if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose, and there's nothing you can really do about it. You just try and do the best you can with what
Yeah.
you've got, and that's like why games uh like other card based games, you look at like poker.
Yeah.
When the big poker boom was happening, I don't know what, 10 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
I was watching a lot of poker, and you start looking into that sort of stuff, and you become to realize that these guys are really good, but they're also relying extremely heavily on chance, and they're
Yep.
dealing with the stuff that they get given and trying to make the best about it. Like you look at who's won that sort of stuff, and the guys that win the main event at those things, they don't really win it another time. Like it's
Yeah.
usually a different person every year. And you get the guys that are obviously very, I'm not saying poker players aren't good, but you get the guys that have won all those other events around it, and they get bracelets and all that sort of things. But you don't really see the same people winning like the main event a lot. And the guys that do win the mini tours that are going around, like the guys like your Phil Hellmuth has got 15, 16 bracelets, they're like, you know what I mean? Like they're just kind of winning it. They're doing the best that they can, and occasionally they're putting their luck in the right spot. And it's not like they're a they're not like LeBron James or I don't someone in tennis, or like Tom Brady. We were talking about football, where they're like are dealing with they can. I don't know. There's no random shit in there that have to do with other than refs, which is a human nature of the sport that they kind of have to manage. And so that's why you see those people, athletes that are able to repeat success, and people that are in card games have a lot tougher time because they're relying a lot more on this random stuff that is going on. And like you talked about, like, how do you fix that? And unless they change the gameplay up fundamentally, not fundamentally, but like add a brand new mechanic and being like, the Hearthstone thing where you get extra land, I don't know, every 2 turns for free or something like that. But otherwise, like, they can't do it. And you look at we've talked about this a bunch, like the pseudo random stuff that Dota did by getting rid of the random chance of like, hey, you've got a 15% chance to stun this person or to deal this much damage, and they scrapped that whole thing and changed it to being like, it's 15%. But every time, but it's not really 15%. The first time is 8%, and the second time is 12%, and the third time is 18%. And every time that you do something that is supposed to have a percentage chance attached to it, and it doesn't happen, the next time you do it, there's a greater chance, and eventually that thing is going to proc and happen. And that is how they solve that.
Or recoil patterns.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a similar thing, right? Some games have random recoil, and inevitably they struggle competitively, and then they adopt a recoil pattern, and it's far more palatable because you can deal with skill based. Yeah, there's a guaranteed way. Like I think, I mean, Battle Royale is probably the easiest comparison to the card game, right? Because you can, like I said, you can get land screwed. You can get bad RNG. RNG plays a large role in it. I wonder if that's. I've been watching the PGIS quite a bit, and on our Discord, LJM did his best to explain the convoluted fucking mess that is how this tournament is working. But it's a tournament where I think they've made some mistakes, but like in a way, they've almost solved exactly what you were talking about. This problem where
we solved it. We solved it fucking 4 years ago, Joe. We said this is how you fix PUBG esports.
We absolutely
they listened to half of us. The other half, they're doing weird shit over there, but
done their own thing. But but like the way that you win in the PGIS is like the winner is the person who has the most money, who's won the most money over the course of the tournament at the end of it. the way they screwed up is by making certain weeks far more valuable than others.
Like
To the
weighted
point
winnings.
where,
That's
like,
strange.
I can't remember if it was the 4th or 5th week, but like one of the weeks is worth more than the 3 weeks previous. So like, yeah, like insanity.
But is it earnings based, or are they doing like, because you look at it sounds similar to what Valve did with the Dota Pro circuit stuff, where they have like major events and minor events, and certain events are worth more money, not more money. Well, yes, they're worth more money, but they're also worth like more circuit points compared to others. And then they go into the like, this is who gets into the international at the end of the year. Like it sounds like that, but also it's not, because it's with Dota, it's different organizations that are putting on this stuff in different parts of the countries. Whereas the PUBG stuff is not necessarily like that. It's being hosted in the same spot by the same organization. And that's why I'm confused about why they've got these weighted winning earnings things that relate to how well you do.
I honestly, yeah, like I said, LJN did his best to explain it, but I do not think he was just entirely successful. I don't know that it's not his fault. I don't think he fully understands. I don't think anyone fully understands it.
I think they were using a dartboard and they were like, oh, okay, that week's 45,000.
But like, I wonder if that's almost the way that you get around it. I mean, like you were saying, right? There aren't that many people who are repeat champions in poker, right? And there are repeat champions in Magic, but there aren't that many, and there is a degree of RNG about it that you have to fucking account for. And like the I think the reason that I wind up still playing Battle Royale over and over again is because you
get fucked sometimes, and there's nothing good about it.
You get,
but when things go well, then it's awesome.
and skill, there is an element of mechanical skill that can overcome being fucked. That just doesn't happen in a card game because mechanical skill is removed. And I guess it is a crutch, but it is a crutch that I think I require, because if it didn't exist, I probably would have burned out on Battle Royales long ago as well, just from being RNG fucked. I hate being RNG fucked in Battle Royales as much as I hate being RNG fucked in Magic, but I am more like, I think those, that elation I felt at having successfully baited my opponent into handing me my Planeswalker back when I wasn't able to draw it. Like, I'm actively unable to draw it from my fucking deck, and I've still managed to bait him into giving it to me so I could get it on deck at the right moment to then get further RNG fucks, right? That elation at the skill move that I put out, right? It wasn't mechanical skill, but it was a skill play. That, I think, occurs more often because moment to moment there is mechanical skill that you can lean back on in a Battle Royale that just doesn't wind up happening in Magic the Gathering. Anyway, like,
right.
I can't handle being land fucked. It drives me bananas. Oh, like I even read like interviews from the creators, and they're like, but like the great thing about land is that it creates so much like investment in deck building, and I just don't think that's true, because I spent most of my time, I worked out over the course of the many games that I played, I worked out how I would get land fucked. How I would get fucked proper, how other players could defeat me, and I worked out how I could solve those problems very quickly, like really quickly. And I worked out, like, I think pretty interesting ways to deal with it. Most of my time deck building was adding or removing a single fucking land to see how that would change the balance. And I understand 100% that I probably didn't give each variant enough time. I have no idea how many games you would have to play before you were certain. But I'm sure I didn't give it enough time. I'm sure, Magic the Gathering pros would be like, oh, you got to play 100 games of the deck before you know whether or not you're going to get land fucked by it. I certainly didn't play that many, but yeah. Anyway, what else? Oh, yeah. Magic the Gathering Arena doesn't do a very good job of, I think, breadcrumbing plays either. Like, it doesn't give you a lot to go on in a lot of situations. There are a number of circumstances wherein like you just have no idea, and if you haven't seen the card before, you're not able to accurately work out what the fuck has happened. I put up a video in Discord where I'm like, what the fuck happened here? And it was basically just like cards being triggered over and over and over and over again, and the person I was up against had basically like created mana out of nothing, but you can't, like, it doesn't showcase where those, like, a mana token is this tiny fucking dot on the screen. It's not large enough compared to like, I think what they're going for is the accurate live representation of a token, right? Which would be a small little circle, but the active like placement of a token is different to a number ticking up on a small circle on a pretty fucking cluttered board. Right. So it's very easy to miss, and then you just sit there wondering what the fuck is going on. That happens quite a bit. When cards are like being played in order, you can't separate them. So if one card has an action that it needs to be played, and then another card, and then another card, you can't see what's happening after until it comes up, which is aggravating as shit, because sometimes you may want to make a change to what you're about to do or let happen based on what they're going to do. But if you've never seen those cards before, you've got no idea what is going to happen until they fucking come up. What else? The phone version is worse at this. So much worse at this. Because it's way harder to actually fucking like click on a card to read what's going on, and you're on a tiny screen. And so it's, I just found that I was roping a lot on the phone, which I'm sure was not, my opponents weren't fans of that. But yeah, I don't know. That's about it. I can't play. I can't play PvP card games anymore, because it's just like when it's against an AI card engine, I find that being screwed. Like, I can't even take, knowing that I've been land fucked, I can't even take a lot of, like, I can see when my opponent is sitting there with fucking 3 fucking lands out on turn fucking 11, and I'm like, and now I'm gonna play my oh yeah, you can't do anything, but it doesn't feel good, right? Like, it doesn't feel good because I can see that they're being land fucked as well, right? Like, it happens to everyone, and that's like, that is used as an excuse for it. Oh well, sometimes you'll get land fucked, sometimes they'll get land fucked. I'm like, but that's not satisfying, right? Like, I don't take any joy in that. It's not like circle fucked or circle gifted. These are different. These are different concepts, because you can overcome most being cases of being circle fucked. But yeah,
we're going to put the circle on the other side of the map, but we're also taking away your legs. So
right, like, yeah, like it's just not the same. So I can't even take joy out of a lot of my victories outside of the ability to put something broadly cool together. there was my favorite game. I'll finish on Magic with this. My favorite game of Magic was there was a guy who was emoting non-stop and roping the shit out of me. Roping, allowing the turn to take as long as humanly possible. And I managed to get my Planeswalker out because I was watching the basketball, so I didn't give a fuck. But I could see him emoting, and he had me down to like 2 health. And I got my Planeswalker out. I got my other win conditions out. I had him lock stock the fucking lot. I had Valky, and I had this other god character, Turgrid, who the flip side of hers was an enchantment where you could activate it, and they had to discard a card or lose 3 health. And this dude had shit tons of cards. And if you put Turgrid out at the same time, when they discard a card, you get that card. So if you got Turgrid and Turgrid's Lantern on board at the same time, you take whatever they've fucking got. It's yours. It goes into your battlefield. It is heinous. And what was happening was they were discarding cards all over the fucking place. And I was just taking them and putting them into the battlefield. And I walloped them. I was on 2 health. And then I get my Planeswalker out, and I take cards from, exile cards from both decks. And they are basically out of cards at this point. And my board is full. I've got everything I need. They're still pretty high on health for whatever reason. And what I drew from them was a card that play this card and draw 7 cards. And I played it, and I played it on them to give them 7 cards. And then I waited till the next turn, and then I started making them discard again or lose health. And suddenly they'd stopped roping and stopped emoting. And that was my favorite game, because they were being dicks, and I managed to throw it back in their face. It was a real power move, giving them 7 cards when they knew that they couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But otherwise, yeah, I'm done with Magic.
Nice.
Again. Smash cut to episode 750, and I'll be like, Magic the Gathering, guys. Interesting stuff. Don't know if you guys have heard about this, but
yeah, they sent me this space food, and that was while I was in space.
We went to space for the space-themed launch of Space Magic. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a game we can talk about, which is semi-related to Magic. It's called Roguebook, and it is designed by the same guy that created Magic the Gathering, Richard Garfield. This was one of the demos on the Steam Game Festival that they've been, that they were doing the last week and a bit. I think is it over now, or is it?
Yeah,
I think it's over now. Yeah, yesterday. Basically a bunch of demos on Steam that you could play, tons and tons and tons of upcoming games. And I thought I'd check this one out because it sounded interesting. And it was a roguelike deck building game where you are playing as this character who is navigating this top-down world that's sort of laid out in hexagons. And as you start the game, you go and grab another companion or an ally with you. In this particular demo, there was only one. And they have an entirely different set of cards to what your character does, your main champion. I'm assuming that once the game does come out, that there'll be different types of champions and cards and different combinations that you can sort of build along the way. But anyway, so you start off and it's basically this hexagon map that is entirely shrouded. You can't see around it. And then it draws a path to the boss of the area. Um, and then you're given like paintbrushes, and the idea is to explore this world and paint in your surroundings by revealing what is behind this fog. And when you do that, you uncover stuff that's there. It could be new pathways, or it could be fights that you can go and take on. It could be treasure, gold, gems, or new cards and things like that. So you're given a very limited amount of these paintbrushes in order to go out and sort of build your deck a little bit better, in order to then go to the boss and try and beat the boss and go to the next area. And that's kind of where the roguelite stuff sort of comes into it, is you're exploring this world. You may not succeed, but when you're not succeeding, you're gaining resources that allow you to go into your deck later on and get extra cards, and you're getting more familiar with the cards and getting more familiar with the enemies that you're coming up against and how they work, and all the different sort of strategies that sort of entails. And so, yeah, like I think it's in an interesting place at the moment. Like it seems all right.
Yeah.
It was, because it's a demo, it's sort of hard to gauge like how deep this thing actually goes, and like how much legs it's going to have, because they're saying like it's going to take like 20 hours to finish their campaign, or like and there's like hundreds and hundreds of cars that you can go through, and all this sort of stuff. But when like there's nothing that's really standing out to me that's been like, oh, that's kind of cool. To me it seems like it's a good foundation for what they've got at the moment, but I kind of want to see more, because I don't get a sense of how the roguelite aspect sort of works as you start spending like a lot of time with it. Because I played like 2 hours or something like that, so I don't really have a good grasp of how many times you've actually got to go through it to actually start getting these decks really powerful and really making it substantial changes. Because I got to the second area of the game, and at that stage, like the things you're coming up against have tons and tons of health, and you're just getting walloped at that point. But you're also getting, like I said, these resources, and it's not really, the game's not really telling you what you're supposed to do with them, because it's like it's just a demo. Like it's just a snapshot of this section of the game, so there's no proper tutorial system in there yet or anything like that. There's bits and pieces that sort of guide you very basically like what you should be doing, but it's super early in that aspect. So I don't know, man. Like there's some stuff in there that I think is interesting, like the going out and exploring this world and trying to acquire more paintbrushes to explore further, and taking on these like little mini fights that are in between, and then building up your cards. Your champions will take damage, and if they go down to 0 health, then they sort of get put in this wounded state, where you'll automatically be given, I don't know if this will change once it's released, but you get wounded cards automatically chucked into your hands, but you're still able to do things with them, like revive them. There'll be like a play this card for 1 mana, and if you then play 3 of these types of cards at any time, it'll revive that character back. And so you can sort of get killed but then come back to life, and then have your other character get killed and then bring the other one back to life, and sort of do this juggling effect. So it doesn't mean that you automatically get like one shot by something and it's like, oh well, I guess my run is completely over now, there's not really much I can do. And so there's like interesting stuff in there that is kind of cool, but the like mana thing that you were talking about, I don't really know how they address that sort of stuff, because it's kind of like Hearthstone, where you're given a pool, and then every time that you jump into a new round, you're like, all right, you're back up to 4 mana, and you get to spend these cards, and so you spend the cards depending on like what color deck it is. And I think the ones that I was playing was white and red. The red deck was more like a tanky dude, which was able to block a bunch of damage, whereas the white one seemed a bit more damage focus. And one of the interesting mechanics they've got in there is that certain cards will change your positioning in the combat phase. So it's kind of like Monster Train or Slay the Spire, where depending on where these characters are on the 2D plane, they'll be the ones that are attacked. Because your enemies can only attack the person that is in front, whereas you can attack whoever you want. At least whatever I've played so far, it's kind of like you play this card and you attack this person, but they're attacking whoever is in front. But some of the cards will have certain abilities on them where it'll be like, hey, you're able to deal 13 damage, but if you deal 13 damage, it'll move your character to the front, and all of a sudden, like, they're the ones that are blocking. And then there's stuff like combo cards where you need to play a card from the other color first, and then if you play a card from your second deck later, then it has a combo effect and it becomes like more powerful, or maybe you can't even play that card until you do something from the other deck. And so there's stuff in there that I think is neat. But I feel like I need to play a lot more of it to sort of see how deep it goes, because there was stuff in there where I'm like, I'm not really sure like where the roguelite stuff sort of fits into it at this point, because it's kind of hard to gauge with a snapshot of a demo, and being like, how does it really affect cards later on? Because I know there's stuff in there where you can get upgrades and it sort of modifies your cards, but that doesn't really stick for the next run. It's just that particular run. But at the same time, I'm earning like a experience points that are unlocking extra cards for me. And so yeah, it's very hard to, in a roguelike game, be like, I've played 2 hours and I'm not really sure like how different the game will be like 10 hours in, once you've had a lot of time to sort of build up the roguelite aspects of these types of games and get an understanding how it plays. But I think it's an interesting combat concept. As someone who didn't play a lot of like Slay the Spire, that's probably the one game I'd sort of put it up against, because I don't think it's like, I wouldn't say it's much like Monster Train. It's purely because
looking at I think the art style is very Slay the Spire.
Yeah. It's got a great art style, and it looks really cool. But I don't know. Slay the Spire to me was very minimalistic, I feel like, with the art style.
100%. But I think the character design in both these games that looks similar. I don't know, something about it. I'm not artistic enough to say exactly what it is that's linking it in my brain, but yeah.
To me, it's a sort of like a mix between Monster Train and Slay the Spire, in terms of its the way it plays and its character designs. I think the actual character designs are more in line with Monster Train. Like, there's stuff in this game that I was like, that looks like a character from Monster Train. So just like weird vibes of that. But in terms of like, nothing about it really was blowing me away, being like, oh, this is fucking insane. Like, this is really cool. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is all right. I dig it. I just kind of want to play more and get a feel for it and see like what it turns out to be like as a roguelite, as opposed to just a card game. Because that's where I think it could get a bit more interesting. So yeah. Anyway, you never got a chance to check this one out yet?
Unfortunately, I didn't. I kind of wish I had. I could have been playing this instead of Magic. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds really interesting. I've wish listed it. I'm very keen to see where it goes. I'm loving the new trend of these deck building roguelikes. I think it's a great way to like just engage players. And like I said, I can't play card games in versus anymore unless I'm versing a computer. So
yeah,
but I do like my card games.
I mean, like, for me, hopefully it starts to explain a bit better some of the systems that are in there, like the mana system, and like, how do I get more mana? Like, is that something that I get through the leveling up system, or is it always I've got 4 mana and that's all I can use the entire game? Because there were some cards where you'd play a card and be like, hey, if you play this, like the combo thing. If you play this white card and then you play this red card, the red card, it won't be two mana, it'll be 1 mana instead. But if you play it without playing the white card, then it's 2 mana. And so
Right.
like that sort of stuff I can understand. That's cool. But like, how do I
Yeah.
get more mana, and how do I level my characters more? And there's like
Yeah.
a skill tree system in there, and that sort of stuff, and some sort of like power system attached to each character. And I couldn't really figure out how that worked. So there's like stuff in there that I'm still a bit iffy about, but it seems like a cool idea. Just see if it gets executed as well as some of these ideas are. So yeah. Anyway. It sounds like it's gonna be not too far off. Like the date that they've got in Steam is June, so
Yeah.
a couple more months. But yeah, we'll see how that one goes. It's called Roguebook. You could maybe, if they do like another demo before it's released, I would assume they do something like that if it's already something in their pocket. But keep an eye out for it, especially if you're a Magic the Gathering fan, because it's the same dude. So there you go.
Sure.
Cool. Some other stuff that I did check out during this Steam Summerfest demo thing that they did was Builder Simulator, which is another simulator game. But this one is you building houses. And I think it's like these guys have done other simulator games before. I'm gonna try and check what else they've done, because I saw their their publisher page was like, hey, if you've played this, then you'll like this. So they've done like train station renovation. From what I can tell. Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not very good. At least at this stage, mainly technically. Like, it's got some technical problems that I couldn't overcome, and it looked like that other people on the forums were having issues with. In particular, the frame rate was kind of like broken. It seemed like it was running at 20 frames a second or something, even though it was saying it was running at 100 and whatever on my PC. People were hearkening to saying that like, oh, this is an existing problem that's happened in like their past games. It's just sort of behaved this way in certain aspects. So that was weird. It's got this like strange motion blur thing that's going on, which doesn't look very good.
Good. Right.
And then I was running into problems where, so the tutorial is like basically showing you how to interact with the world and I guess build the foundation of houses. And it's like, hey, you got to put this metal pipes in this certain position, and you're like clicking on things and picking them up and putting these wooden barricades down on the ground. And then I got to the point where I needed to pick up the hose, use the hose in the cement mixer, and then I grabbed a bunch of cement, started chucking in cement to this mixing thing while it's spinning around. And there's a little board on the background that's got like, hey, this is how you make cement. And it's like different types of ratios, being like 20% water and 15% sand and 25% gravel, and all this sort of stuff. But the tutorial didn't matter. You just kind of chuck the things you needed in there, and it would go and start mixing the cement. And so you grab the wheelbarrow, then you move the wheelbarrow up next to this cement mixer, and you start like turning the wheelbarrow. Start turning the handle on the cement mixer to like pour it out. But like I hadn't put the wheelbarrow close enough, and so like half of it is going on the floor, and the other half is going into the wheelbarrow. And so I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Anyway, so the wheelbarrow fills up with cement, and then you start pouring the cement into like the foundation of the gaps on the ground, and you got to do this a bunch of times, like in order to fill it up. So I go back to the cement mixer, and then I start pouring the cement back into the wheelbarrow. That fills up, and I start wheeling it back into where I need to put all this stuff. And the controls is terrible. Like the way I feel like I should be controlling this wheelbarrow is the way that I would control a car in a driving game. Whereas when I press backwards and right, it should loop to the left, you know what I mean? But it doesn't do that. It actually makes me go backwards and right. I'm like, oh, my brain is like not working properly. This feels strange. And so anyway, I do this like 4 or 5 times. I'm getting pretty close to finishing my cement mixing and placement. And then I get the wheelbarrow next to the cement mixer again, and then it gets stuck, and I can't move the wheelbarrow anymore, and like it's just stuck on the ground or something. And so then I quit and stopped playing because I just spent 20 minutes mixing cement, and then the wheelbarrow got stuck. So that was my experience with Builder Simulator. It's not in a good spot at the moment. Like if that's the demo that they pushed out,
I was a brickie for a couple of weeks, and that's pretty much actually
same
that's actually
experience.
really realistic. Yeah,
Yeah, where the wheelbarrow got stuck and everybody went home. You're like, well, fuck it.
Fuck it, I'm done. It's smoke out time, motherfuckers. I am finished.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know, man. Like, I would wait for them to fix what. Like, that's not a good demo to put out. I feel like, and I know I'm not alone because I checked the forums afterwards and saw other people complaining about the movement system and the weird frame rate issues and the it's like the motion blur, whatever it is that they've got going on there is kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know. I would that was a bad demo for me to check out. One of the only few that I did check out, and it wasn't very good. So anyway, did you get a chance to play anything during the Steam Summerfest thing?
Yeah, so I got to play Hidden Deep, the Hidden Deep demo, which is a game that I'm really interested in. Like very excited to play when it fully comes out. I don't think this is an interesting demo.
I thought it was a multiplayer game until because I was going to download it and I was like, oh, you know what? That's
the demo is not multiplayer, but the game is multiplayer, as far as I'm aware. I'm only interested in playing it as a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
If it winds up being purely single player, I've got zero interest, but I'm 90% sure that it's actually multiplayer. It has like it's not that it was fun and interesting and like a good weird horror game. But yeah, if like I think it needs multiplayer action to keep it being interesting.
All right.
Hang on, I'm just reading. It seems like co-op mode has been bumped back to in development. So it looks like it will release single player primarily, which is a shame. Like it's a horror game, a 2D like horror game where you're rolling through this this spooky underground base investigating stuff. And it's weird because a lot of its charm is derived from how sort of finicky it controls. It's very like characters have a lot of weight and momentum to them, and so like there's this element of like taking an extra step when you turn around that sort of changes the way you interact with your character, because you're not this, you know, it's not like fucking Streets of Rage or Contra or some shit where you just instantly flip backwards and forwards. You like have to make the turn as you go, and you've got to like think that shit through and like make sure like there's a lot of decision making in the process that like can result in like I can't tell, but I think it's unintentional comedy. Because it's funny as shit. And I don't think it's meant to be funny as shit. I think it's supposed to be spooky, and yet I was cracking up. The way that your characters will fucking die. It's the way, because they're these paper doll ragdoll, like they'll just ragdoll. And so like if you like when you're going down a ledge that is maybe like 2 people tall, there's a halfway decent chance that you'll just fucking face plant against the wall, and if you bump your head, you ragdoll, and so you just sort of crumple to the ground in this fucking in this heap, and it's fucking hilarious. And so because of the way the game controls with like all these precise movements being required and stuff, you have this like situation where you might walk up to the edge and you've got to like climb down this ledge and then drop yourself down. And yeah, it was very common while I was playing for my character to like walk up to the edge, and instead of lowering himself down, he'd just sort of fucking yeet himself off the fucking edge and then just ragdoll at the bottom, and I would piss myself laughing. It was like annoying, but also hilarious. And so I wasn't scared. It was just this fucking slapstick, like goofy Three Stooges style fucking underground horror game. And so yeah, that's why I think it needs the co-op aspect, because if it's got co-op, then the comedy can be shared, and if it doesn't have co-op, and it looks like that's been pushed back, then you'll wind up with a game that's supposed to be horror that winds up being just funny most of the time. And if it's not funny, it'll wind up being annoying, and that's probably not ideal. But yeah, it does make me want to play a co-op horror game. We should revisit Phasmophobia.
Yeah.
Give it a proper run. Or the other game, it's a game that looks like Hidden Deep but isn't Hidden Deep. Game that looks like Hidden Deep. Come on. Give me the fucking deets. Come on.
It reminded me of like... Which one?
Arrow Trauma.
Oh, okay.
Like a complex submarining game with... it's in space. It's not submarine. All right. It looks like a submarine when you're playing it. But yeah, it's like tricky and funny as shit, and it's got the same sort of movement style and actually pretty similar art style. I thought it was by the same people when they first announced it, but it's not. Anyway, yeah, should definitely check that out.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to until I read that it was like this, and this could be a different game. Maybe I was looking at the wrong game, but I thought it was Hidden Deep. But it was supposed to be like you're moving a team of characters around, like you weren't just playing one person.
You will, I believe, in Hidden Deep, like move a team of characters around. Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed a bit like Reverse Carry On to me. Same sort of vibe.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. That is Hidden Deep. I didn't get a chance to check out too many demos in the Steam Game Festival. I think Nate downloaded all of them. It's by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Definitely played a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a cool little thing that they put out every once in a while. It's hard to navigate like what people are playing. Like there's no sense of on that page like what's popular, what are people checking out right now, like what is good. Like when you go onto the Steam store, you can see like what's the newest game and how popular it is and like what are people playing right now, but that's not in this game festival thing. It's just like here's fucking 4,000 games and good luck.
Yeah.
Here they are. So it'd be good if they had a better curation system as opposed to just relying on people like Nate who just download all of them and like this one's good and this one's good. Or like streamers.
His picks were what? Glitchpunk, Hot Brass, which I played at PAX a couple of years ago and we talked about. Anvil, which he says reminds him of Hellbreakers.
Okay, yeah.
Helldivers. Lunark. which he says is janky as shit.
Yeah.
Potentia, which post-apocalyptic third-person shooter with bad writing, and The Last Stand Aftermath.
Okay.
So yeah, some good ones to keep an eye on. I wish listed all of them, but I didn't have time at the time to check out the demos. I'd already wish listed Hot Brass when I played it at PAX.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
But yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's move on to Idle Slayer.
There are a handful of demos still available, actually.
Which one?
There are a handful of these demos still available.
Maybe they just didn't take them off.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. I love the idea of demos making a comeback. I love demo culture was fucking rad. I understand that for game devs it was a pain in the dick, but like, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
why not? Yeah.
All right, cool. Idle Slayer. Still playing Idle Slayer?
Yep. They made a big change earlier this week.
Okay. What's the change?
To alleviate a bunch of the problems that I was having with it last week, that we were talking about last week.
Sure.
They lowered the amount of those gases that you need.
Yeah.
So you no longer need fires, rather. You need 55,000 or whatever the fuck wildfires. They lowered the amount that you need to alleviate that issue. Bunch of other quality of life issues, and so it's sort of, I don't know. I think it helped a little bit. They may have jumped the gun, or Plab may have jumped the gun on the Ultra Ascension concept. But it's a game that's a work in progress, and I think they did a halfway decent job at fixing it. I Ultra Ascended again.
Right.
To get my UA points up to 8.
What were you at? How many million ascension points, whatever it was that you were at?
Like, I don't know. I was fucking, I don't know, 5K into the kill 55,000 fucking wildfires. And I'm like, okay. I'm just gonna Ultra Ascend again. I don't give a fuck. The man, like, they either they fix this soon or people stop playing. So, and I was correct. They fixed it. So cool.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm still playing it. I'm not sure where I'm at. I think I'm like 15 million, somewhere around that. Ascension CPS.
You haven't UA'd again?
No, I haven't even unlocked it. I've just been unlocking other stuff at this stage. Yeah.
Surely 15 million. Surely you've unlocked a couple of extra points.
Maybe I just haven't clicked on, because you've got to unlock the thing to ascend, right? I'm pretty sure. And I'm just like, can't be bothered. It doesn't tell you, I don't think, unless you unlock that skill. So,
right.
Yeah. Anyway, just quickly, God of War. We talked about this last week. The new PlayStation 5 patch, which brings it up to 4K 60 frames per second. It's good. Like, it's God of War, right? It feels like the way you're supposed to play that game was 60 frames per second, because they had that extra mode out on the PlayStation 4 that was like 60 FPS, and also you could do the 4K, but it was running at 30. The way that combat system behaves, it feels like you should be playing it at 60, and that's going to be an issue, I think, going forward, is that those sort of action games, if they're not 60, now that people have had the taste for it on consoles, at least, it's going to be hard to go back, right? So it's going to be cool to see, or interesting to see what they do going forward with that series. But yeah, if people haven't checked it out, definitely play God of War on PlayStation 5. It's super easy to jump back into. Like I'd already started like a second run on that, and I just kind of jumped into an area I played for like 5 hours or something. I was just like, okay, I guess we're playing God of War tonight, and just fucked around in it for a while.
Yeah, it was.
So I don't know if I get some more free time, I'll jump back in and keep going through. But yeah, that's an excellent game, man. The audio in that game, in particular,
Yeah.
is bonkers. Because I was playing in my living room with my surround sound on, which is how I usually play it, unless I've got my headphones on. But like my wife was working on her computer and like came over to talk to me, and there was some dialogue happening in the game,
Yeah.
and she fucking freaked out because she thought someone was like talking next to her in the wall or something. She's like, yeah, because just the audio is that good, because it kind of bounces around the room and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's God of War. Awesome stuff. Next up,
Cool.
Dead by Daylight. Brand new patch dropped yesterday. I guess they call it like a mid-season patch. This one has some big changes in it. In particular, the HUD layout was one of the bigger, interesting changes that they decided to do. And I talked about this a couple of weeks back. The stuff that they put out in the initial video, I didn't think looked very good. They've now rolled it out. I still don't think it's very good.
I've seen people aren't happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is a process problem in their design, in the development team, because they've got this player test build PTB server running for these sorts of patches, where they roll the update out there and they get a bunch of feedback, and then they make changes according to feedback. The issue is that it's taking like 3 weeks for them to get past cert on all these platforms, because this game runs on like
Everything PC to Switch.
Yep. And so it's got crossplay, and so they're needing to do all this cert stuff, which takes like 3 weeks. And by the time that's all done, like it's too late. Like they're just fucking pushing it out. They're like, all right, here we go, it's done. There was a question that I saw in their live stream that day. It's like, what's the point of having the PTB then if you guys aren't going to fix these changes for the launch of the patch? And their answer was that it's so that we don't have to wait another 3 weeks to get this stuff rolled out. Like we've got a 3-week head start basically now. And I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. Personally, I think that they shouldn't be on these deadlines. Like they should be testing this like, I don't know, a month and 6 weeks in advance, getting that, or like further 7 weeks in advance, getting that couple of weeks of feedback from the community, trying to make some of those changes. Because obviously some of this stuff is not going to come out in time, but at least they're then looking at, they've got a bit of a head start. They've got a month to start working on things, but because at this point, I feel like it's too late. Like all these problems are going to be around for another month now. And so that sucks. So the new HUD layout, I don't like it at all. The way they've changed it, like there's some really good ideas in there, but I'm not a designer. I feel like I should be, because I would have picked up on this stuff so quickly. Just this stuff, it's everywhere. As a killer's perspective, Dead by Daylight, asymmetrical multiplayer game we talk about all the fucking time. If you haven't heard about it, go check it out. It's awesome. But the killer's perspective, their HUD, they basically have their abilities in one corner, which are the bottom right, so all their perks and stuff. And then on the bottom left, what used to be in this location was the survivor names, their status, so whether they've been hit, injured, downed, hooked, that sort of stuff. And then also like your anything that was attached to like your abilities. So each character in the game has special abilities, and that would show up down the bottom left as well, including how many generators have been done. The survivors need to finish 5 generators and then try and escape the map, and that indicator was down there. They've now moved everything. The survivor icons are now on the top left. They've done a really good job of showing you who each player is now. So there's a little character next to the person's name. So it'll be like, here's a picture of Meg, and here's their name, and here's their status. That stuff is cool because it used to be just a generic fucking head. So now you can see who is who, and I think that's great. They've put in a like a hook counter for the killer, so it shows you your progress, which is a good addition. That's in the middle of the left-hand side of the screen. The generator icon has been moved to the top middle. And then on the far right-hand side, top right, is where your score indicators are. And they've made that smaller. And I don't like that either. So like they've done like a half, maybe not even a half good job, but like there's some cool ideas in there. The hook stuff is great. The character portraits of each survivor is really good. But then they've changed the statuses. They don't look very good. They're hard to distinguish, like who's been hit, who hasn't been hit. It's very hard to see the different states, I guess. And then by moving them, like everything is now, you're looking everywhere now to get information, as opposed to looking at the bottom left of the screen and being like, I've got this many generators done, this many people I've injured or hooked or whatever. Like now you're looking in 3 different parts of the screen every time, including the bottom right to see when your spells, your perks have been activated and all that sort of stuff. So my suggestion would be to take that stuff that you got, chuck it back down the bottom left, make some of those state icons a bit more clearer, fix them up a little bit, and I think that's in a good spot. I'm just thinking like that is what I would change. I don't know how
Like
I got to that point.
Like there is like for players, right? It's such a weird change because there's a way that players like as you learn the game, you learn to read,
Scan information, yeah.
right? And like so a lot of the information that you get becomes like not active viewing, it's peripheral, right? And so changing where it is in the periphery alters how you play, right? Like it's such a weird fucking change to just do like that. Like that's so odd.
Yeah. And it's the type of thing where, like, as I'm playing as a killer, I can quickly glance at the bottom left and be like, okay, 4 generators, 2 people are hooked or something like that. Yeah. Like if 2 people are damaged or been injured or something like a really quick way for me to get information now. In the current state, I've got to look at the bottom left, then I've got to look at the middle top screen, and then I've got to look at like the top left, and then also the top right if like one of my skills have been activated. It's just everywhere, and so they need to clean that up. I think that there's some good ideas there. Like they've put in UI HUD scaling, which is cool. That needs to be fixed up a little bit. I think some of the UI elements are still too small. It's very hard to read. Like if somebody's on the hook, how much along the like line are they? Because there's different stages of it, and so how much health have they lost? So anyway, for me personally, I just don't understand how this got in how it was released in this state. If it wasn't ready to be put out, then they shouldn't have put it out. But the fact that it was put out means that this was approved somewhere, and that's kind of worrying. Because it's shit. Anyway, some other stuff that they've done is they've done a map overhaul for Gideon Meat Plant and the Asylum. The Gideon Meat Plant is the Saw movie themed map. They've heavily favored this for survivors now. They've basically reworked it. For Asylum, they've put a lot of obstacles in the outside area, a lot more pallets. Very hard for some of the other killers in the map. So if you're playing like who's someone who needs a big open area, like Hillbilly, who charges up a chainsaw, does like long distance runnings. A lot of places now for survivors to sort of hide, and if they're out in the open, they've got plenty of locations to get away. I haven't played Asylum yet. I've watched a bunch of streamers. That's just something I took note of as I was watching it. I was like, this looks not good. The one that I did play is the Gideon Meat Plant. I must have played that like 8 times yesterday. I reckon 80% of the games I had was on this map. I think they've
Right.
chucked it in like high rotation or something.
Yep.
The very first time I played it, I was like, oh, this is broken. Like they've broken something. It's legit broken. Because I was like, why are there? I must have broken like 20 something pallets. So the pallets are what the survivors use to sort of get some distance between you and the killer chasing them. But there was
Yep.
like pallets everywhere. Like there's sometimes like 2 or 3 in the one room, and then they go to the next room. There's like 2 or 3 again. I'm like, have they just spawned like every single fucking pallet? And this wasn't like a something where I was like, oh, this is the second game in. I know this is like halfway through the first game. I was like, either this guy is a god or something is broken, like something is done. And then I got into the second round, like I played another game of that, got the same map again, and there was still the same amount of pallets. I was like, this is broken. Like you've fucked this map now. I jumped back into like what the community was saying, and everyone's like, is this supposed to be this many pallets? Like what is going on with this map? So it seems like they've heavily favored survivors on those 2 maps. I think they'll get changed very soon because it's not in a good spot at the moment. It's pretty bad. And then just some like glitchy things. I had one point where I couldn't pick up survivors or interact with anything. It turns out there is a fix for that. You just alt tab, which is good to know. I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
But just some other weird finicky bugs that have gone on, because I guess the biggest one at the moment is they've changed the locomotion system, the way the characters move, the animation sets and that sort of thing. And there is some sort of desync thing happening at this stage where because they're on dedicated servers, killers are like able to just destroy survivors from a really far away range. It looks like it's on the survivor side and not the killer side, because I haven't had any hits where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have hit that.
Right.
But I've been watching a lot of streamers. I've kind of just had it on in the background, and the guys that are playing as survivors, like they are getting hit from fucking far away. So it seems like it's something to do with either the desync or this new animation set, which is busted. I've had issues where the only time I've sort of noticed it is where the player has thrown like a pallet down and it's like warped me to the other side of the pallet and I've hit them. That's bad because I hit the player, and also I'm on the other side of the pallet now, and the only way for them to get away is to go back over the pallet. And they generally don't have enough time to do that. So I then just double hit them. So that's something that needs to be fixed pretty soon. But that's kind of like the one thing that I've noticed in terms of that's going on with this new locomotion system. I haven't really played it as a survivor yet, but the general consensus seems to be pretty mixed. It could be just one of those things where people just kind of have to get used to it, the look of it. Because they're saying that the movement hasn't changed. It's just the animation sort of blending is different now.
Right.
They've made it a bit more smoother.
Doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Played a bit of the new Clown. They've given him a second bottle, so Clown is able to throw these bottles. One is a tonic, the other one's an antidote. The tonic creates a gas cloud. Anybody that's in that gas cloud who's a survivor is affected by it, and it slows them down and causes them to cough and all this sort of stuff for a couple of seconds. And so they've buffed him by giving him a 3-second reload, which used to be 5 seconds. Depending on what sort of add-ons you take in the game with you, depends on maybe how many bottles you can take. I think by default it's like 4. I think it's by 4 by default. So once you run out of those bottles and you recharge them, that takes 3 seconds. But they've added a second bottle in there, which you can tap an action button between. And this antidote button lets you throw out another bottle. It explodes. And after 2.5 seconds, the antidote activates. And as you run through that area, it gives you a 10% boost for about 5 or 6 seconds and makes you run quicker. The thing is that if a survivor runs through it, they also get that boost. So you got to kind of play it in the correct way and make sure that you don't put in an area, I guess, where a survivor can run through. If you throw that bottle down and it hits and lands, and then you switch back to the other tonic and throw a bottle next to it, it sort of deletes them both. It cancels them out. So you got to be really careful where you're putting this stuff. You can't just put them on top of each other and that sort of thing. And also the bottles will, like if you're using the antidote or the tonic, it's sort of decreasing your bottle. They're not like separate counters. So that, I don't know, it's an interesting change to him. It gives him a bit more movement going from one area to another. Have to sort of see how that changes the meta as people keep playing it and figuring out like how much other things they can do with it. Trapper, played a little bit of Trapper. He got a change. We were talking about like pseudo random chance before with Dota. They're doing something a little bit similar here. Not really. The way the Trapper works is you would put a bear trap down, and if somebody stepped on that bear trap, they would then go down to the injured state, and the survivor would need to try and escape. And they would do that by just hitting the action button. And it takes about just under 2 seconds to get out of a trap. And there was a 25% chance of you successfully getting out of that trap. Random, sometimes it would take people 1 chance, other times it would take them 12 chances. Like they'd be there trying to get this bear trap out, right? And sometimes that 25% chance is never hit. And so what they've done now is they've changed it to a 16% chance. And each time that you don't successfully do it, I think the chance increases, but also there's a maximum of 6 attempts. So if you don't get that chance on the 6th time, you'll automatically get out, which is, good chance. A good change. Because I've had games where I play Trapper and I'll trap someone, and sometimes like fucking 40 seconds later, they're still sitting there trying to get out of this bear trap, and I'm like, I'm not even coming, dude. I'm chasing this other person. Type thing.
That would be demoralizing as a survivor.
Yeah. The other change they made to one of the killers, I guess most of these are killers because I mainly play killer, but I think this is where they buffed killers and sort of buffed the survivors on those 2 maps. The Wraith, good change here. He's able to cloak, but they've changed his cloak, so his invisibility predator mode, whatever you want to call it, means that he can no longer be seen from like 20 meters away, so he's completely invisible. Before that used to be like line of sight. If somebody could see his weird predator mode from a distance, then you know he's sort of around somewhere, but now he'll be completely visible from a certain 20 meters, which is a good change. He now gets a increased extra bit of boost when he uncloaks. Generally, when he like decloaks, he'll get a speed boost, which is cool. One of the other things that I saw is that they've also included that speed boost on breaking pallets. So if you're cloaked and you want to break a pallet, you'll get that speed boost now as well from doing that. Before it used to be just like he would decloak and then break the pallet and you wouldn't get anything. So it sort of adds on to it there. So I don't know. I think it's another good buff for him because you don't see him a lot. I play him every once in a while, but one of the original killers, people have sort of figured him out a little bit, so gives him a bit more of a reason to use. But otherwise, they're the main changes that I've sort of come up against. There's some other, bits and pieces in there, but otherwise, like I think it's a good update. Just they need to sort out their process of rolling these patches out because this is the second patch in a row where they've had major issues that have plagued it, and it's taken them a little while to fix. Like those problems that were in the last update with the new character, they fixed all that stuff. That's cool. It works really well now. They're a lot of fun to play, but it shouldn't have been in there at launch. It shouldn't have taken that long to fix. And I think that this is going to be something very similar. They've said they're aware of it. Obviously, they are aware of it because it's been in the test build for weeks and weeks and weeks. But the problem is they're rolling these updates out with those issues in them, and that's causing like huge problems for players. So yeah, it's crap. It sucks. They just need I don't know if they were on like deadlines where they're being forced to do this stuff, like get them out in time.
Right? Like just push the deadlines back or something, right? Like just because clearly the crossplay situation is what's making it too grand a challenge. So yeah, I mean the cost, like check it out on Steam. They're getting fucking slammed in recent Steam reviews.
Are they?
Yeah. Like 755 negative reviews on the 10th of February.
Yeah, it's today.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it can't be good. Nobody likes to see a game go to mostly positive for recent reviews. That's never good for a game. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't. It's not a good look.
I mean, you look at this now. Like, I'm looking at these reviews and like 3,500 hours not recommended. It's like,
yeah,
here's a
exactly.
list.
1,000 hours, yeah, not recommended. Blah blah blah. 2,000 hours, yeah, 3,500, 1,200 hours, etc., etc. People who've played the game a shit ton are saying, I don't think you should get into this game at the moment. Like, I think that's a pretty big deal. You'd be surely better off to just halt, like delay a patch, miss a deadline to do it, to get it in later. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm hoping this stuff gets fixed soon. Like I think the biggest one that needs to be sorted out is this latency or whatever, like desync thing that is going on, because it's just gonna, like, you can't play it as a killer. It seems fine, but as a survivor, the stuff that I've seen is fucking heinous. It's ridiculous. It's like people nowhere near you, like three hit lengths behind getting hit, and it just, you can't play that way because you just don't know how far like you should be running or throwing a pallet down or anything like that. It's yeah, it sucks. It's broken as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, hopefully it gets fixed soon, because it's I'm still playing like hours and hours of that every night at this stage. Okay, next up we've got Spiritfarer. This is available on Game Pass at the moment, and so I thought I would check it out because I've heard some really good things about it, especially at Game of the Year discussions and that sort of thing towards the end of last year. So yeah, if you do have Game Pass, obviously you can check this out. It is a 2D like management adventure game, like sim management, where you're playing a character who is on this giant boat, in the, I guess, the afterlife, and their job is to ferry around these spirits and sort of guide them through their death or their afterlife in death. So you're meeting all these characters who it seems like in some way, one or another, have a connection to yourself. So characters that you knew in your life, and you go around completing tasks for them. And as you progress through their story, eventually you then send them off to the their next stage, I guess. So it's a game about death, pretty much. It's a very heavy topic, with a like, the art style is fantastic. It's this like 2D, almost like hand drawn sort of art style to it. It looks really good, and the main hook of it is completing these tasks, creating these new things on your boat. They're buildings and different types of stuff you can go and do, like cooking stations and beds for people, creating like like places where you're able to do blacksmithing or grow trees or grow crops and all this. Like, there's tons and tons of different stuff that you can do on this boat, and it's this slow escalation of unlocking more and more blueprints and building this boat bigger and bigger and bigger, while completing tasks for all these characters you run into as the Spiritfarer, and and just like progressing through this story. I think it's an excellent game. I've had a lot of fun with it, I guess, considering the sort of topics that it does cover. Like, it's a very addictive management game where you're like going and getting all these different resources and then bringing them back to your boat and then building this new thing and then learning how to use that and then going looking for more resources, because as you're going along on this boat, you're discovering new locations in this world that is all hidden around you, and you can't really see too far around. Again, there's like fog in the area, and you go to a new location, it sort of reveals a little bit more and more, or you get tasks given to you by these characters, and that'll send you off into a new place you have to go and visit. And then there are sometimes barricades, like there'll be sections that are covered in icebergs, and your ship can't get past that area unless you upgrade your ship to be able to get past icebergs. And so there's these gated off sections that you can't explore until your ship is upgraded enough to go out there and do some of these things. So there's a sense of a lot of progression in there. But for the most part, it is this like management game where you're shipping around all these characters and getting to know all these characters that you're bringing onto your boat to live with you, while you complete their tasks and then eventually like say goodbye to them. Like I said, I think it is an excellent game, but there are a lot of issues that I think I see in this. In particular, I feel like it is very tedious, and maybe it's too long. I've played a lot at this stage. I feel like I've played like 30 hours of this so far. I think it needs to be not that long. Like, I feel like it's been padded quite a bit, and that could be because I don't think it does too good of a job sometimes of telling you what you should be doing next. There are quests that you can go out and do, and there are like side quests, and then other things. Like, there's a couple of different lists of quests that you can do. There's like the main quest, side quest, and then I think they're called shenanigans, the third one. But sometimes you don't really get a good grasp of the order you should be doing these things in, because sometimes they'll be gated behind like, you need 15 of these things. You're like, I've never heard of that before. Like, what is this thing that I need? And it's just like, do I just keep exploring and eventually I'll find that, or is that somewhere else in another area that I can't get to yet? And like, which order do I do all of this stuff in? And just kind of, it kind of gets a bit convoluted and confusing, and relying on guides a bit. Like, there's been a bunch of times where I've been like, I have no idea what that is. What is that thing that I need? You're asking me to get, and where do I get it? And then looking at guides and being like, I don't know what this person is talking about. This is insane. That's happened a couple of times. Like the most recent one was this item that I needed, and I was looking at this thing that I needed, and I didn't know what it was, where to get it on the map, anything. And so I looked it up on a guide, and they're like, oh, you need to get it from this thing. And I'm like, what the fuck is that thing? Like, where is this thing? What is that from? Like, oh, you get that from this character. And I'm like, who's that character? I don't even know who that is. And then going and having like 3 steps before that, finding out like, oh, this is how you get this character. And I'm like, that is how you get that? I would never have got, like, I'd still be sitting here if I didn't have a fucking guide. Like, it'd take me years to figure that out. And it was something simple as like, you can do fishing in the game. And I haven't done fishing for a very long time because I've felt like I've had no need to, because I've got like a lot of crops, and I can, like, I've got so much food that I can feed people and all that sort of thing. Like, I haven't had to do fishing for ages. And the thing that I needed to get this character was I needed to do some fishing after I hit a certain checkpoint, and then it would give me that thing. I just didn't know I needed to do that thing. Like, it was like a chain of events that would eventually unlock it. So like today, I think it was today I did it. Yeah, I went and did the fishing, got it first go, got the character, built them the thing they needed, and then eventually got to the stuff, like the resources that will allow me to progress further. But I think that's where the game starts to fall apart, is that you get sort of lost in this convoluted thing that it asks you to do. And you don't really know how to get to that point, because sometimes it will just not show you a quest marker or like, this is where you need to go, type thing. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it could have done a better job of signposting some of that stuff and just making it a bit clearer as to how to go from the next step that you need to do in this quest line. But apart from that, that's sort of the one tedious thing that keeps popping up where I'm like, I don't really know how to solve this problem you're asking me about. But like I've said, there's a lot of exploring, getting new like abilities and platforming abilities, because most of it is just exploring and platforming and gathering resources, but it sort of dishes it out quite slowly to you. So you get to an area and it's like, oh, I don't know how to get to that point, and eventually you come back to it because you've got the new ability that allows you to double jump or get to a certain point that you previously couldn't. So it does that quite a bit. But anyway, like I think it's a really cool game. It just needs, I feel like the pacing is the biggest problem that it does have, because everything else in it is really well done. I just don't know if it needs to be a 35. I don't know. Like, I feel like at this stage it's going to be like a 40-hour game to me. And if you played this game and it was your game of the year, and then you complained about like the one game that I saw last year people complaining about was The Last of Us Part 2, saying that was too long. You're saying that Last of Us is too long, but you like Spiritfarer. I'm not listening to you anymore. You've lost your credibility in any of that sort of stuff, because this game is fucking long. And the story is nowhere near as good. The good thing is that, like,
nowhere near as good.
Shut up. It's all like speech bubbles, and you can sort of press the button and, all right, I'm reading quickie. I can read pretty quickly. Most of the stuff is very short sentences, like 6 words, and then you skip to the next bubble. Like, I can read that pretty quickly. So I'm always just mashing the button and reading. So yeah, that stuff is good. Anyway, like, if you've not played Spiritfarer, it's on Game Pass. It's a very different style of game, indie game, but it reviewed pretty well and was on a lot of Game of the Year lists. I agree with most of the stuff I guess people are saying about it. I don't know if people are saying the pacing is different or not as good, but that's just my probably biggest criticism of it. And there's just stuff in it that I think is, it'll affect a lot of people. I feel like people that have lost people in their lives, that sort of thing, because that's the one thing that it sort of relies heavily on, is learning about these characters, getting familiar with them, and then like saying goodbye to them and that sort of thing. There's this cat in the game. I'm pretty sure it's going to kill this cat at the end of the game. Like, it's not going to be a good time for me, at least, once we get to that spot, because this cat is following you around everywhere in this game, and I'm like, they're going to kill the fucking cat, aren't they? They're going to kill this cat.
They better not. They better not.
You don't want to see what happens when you kill that person's cat.
Don't set him off.
Don't set him off.
Yeah. My wife has played and finished Spiritfarer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How many days did it take her?
Oh, she played for fucking ages. She got it because she was looking for something when she'd run out of shit to do in Stardew Valley.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the same sort of vibe. Yep.
Yeah. And so she got this to fill that void, I guess. And she enjoyed it, but I don't think she had the same criticisms as you. I think she did burn out before she finished it. She was like, oh, I know what I need to do to finish now, but it's just a lot. I think, but like eventually she went back and did it anyway. Yeah. Just to get to the end.
And sometimes I wonder if that is like these issues that I see is because I play so many games that when the game is telling me to do something, I'm like, yep, I got it. Easy. Let's go. Next. I just get through it so quickly that once it tells me, like, go do this other thing, I'm like, okay, how do I do that? Like, I don't get it. Whereas everybody else is like, I'm going to be fishing. Yeah. And I'm like, but I don't need to fish. I've got all this other shit that I've fucking gamed. Like, look at all my plants that are growing all these crops, and don't need to fish anymore. Well, the normal person is like, I'm going to catch some fish today and feed it to my crew. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, it's cool. So you can check that out. Like I said, it's definitely not going to be for everybody. So beware. All right, what else do we have here? I think it's the last game on the list. Is it Valheim? Yes.
Valheim.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
1 million copies sold.
1 million copies sold in its first week, which is fucking massive. This game is, I reckon it's fucking amazing, honestly.
All right, before we get there, We got given a code.
We did.
Get that out of the way.
We were not part of the million sales. We were provided a code by the publisher. Yeah, just to be clear. Anyway, it is a survival game with a Viking theme, third person. It's a classic survival style game. Survival horror, if we want to get into that weird gray area I keep talking about how survival games are actual survival horror games and horror games are absolutely not survival horror. Anyway, you wake up on this. It starts off with some fucking crow dropping you on an island, and then you wake up and
But it takes. I think it's longer than the Half-Life opening. That island goes for ages.
It is.
I was like, do I need to press a button? Like, what is going on?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you get in, wake up, and this crow it basically tells you, "Hey, you got to survive. You've been dropped here because Odin's interested in how you'll fucking handle this place. So see what you can do." And then that's it. You survive. You open. You start off by punching trees, Minecraft style, and then you pick up some rocks and make an axe and chop down trees, make a house, make a fire, make a workbench, and smash cut to 25 hours later, and you're sailing on a longship, desperately avoiding death by mosquito, or plumbing the depths of crypts in swamps and parrying a dozen undead Vikings at once and feeling like a fucking gangster and hunting woolly mammoths and all this kind of stuff. I think it's phenomenal. I think they've done a fucking fantastic job. It does this really good job of balancing. Like, there's a balancing act, I think, that we don't, really look at too much with survival games. But there's a balancing act that is very tricky in every game. Like, if we imagine it like a triangle, every game sort of exists somewhere different in that triangle, and it's between 3 points, obviously, because that's how triangles work. And it's between like survival, crafting, and adventure. And I think if we were to look at a game like Spiritfarer, right, it would be, if like the triangle would sit like, I don't know, I haven't played it, but I would, based on what I watched of my wife playing it, I would say it would sit quite close to the crafting tip on the adventure side, with very little survival. It didn't seem like
there's no survival.
Right.
I mean, so you're feeding characters and that sort of thing, but I don't think they can. I mean, they're already dead, right? So they can die. I think it just you're building like a happiness meter on them and that sort of thing, or like building them houses. That's about as survival that goes.
So on the triangle, that would sit all the way across on that side of the triangle. Meanwhile, something like, say, Subnautica, I would say sits very.
It's outside the triangle. So.
It's over on. I would say it's over on the survival side of that triangle, while still being closer to the center than a lot of games, because exploration is obviously important. Crafting is important. I would say if Subnautica was anywhere, it would be the survival exploration biased side, with survival being the most prescient part of that triangle, and crafting being sort of downplayed because it's not as important as those two other points, but still present enough to drag it away from the side, And the forest, right? I would say survival actually doesn't play that big a role in the forest. In the sense that survival being staying alive from Like if we were to define survival as the threat of death from the failure to manage basic living elements, food, water, oxygen in Subnautic's case, stuff like that, I would say that the forest doesn't prioritize survival all that much. I would say exploration and it would be mostly exploration, if anything, with a little bit of the other two, you know? And I think that triangle dictates, you know, if you can work out which game in the triangle you like the most, you'd best be able to work out what other games you will enjoy. And I think Valheim sits on a crafting biased version of the same sort of realm as the forest. It might be even less survival focused than the forest, because you can live without, like, you don't need to eat in Valheim. You don't, like, you should, because it dramatically impacts your health pool and stamina, but you don't need to. You will not perish if you go hungry or you don't sleep or whatever. And so I think it's a very so, you know, I think that's probably why I've attached to Valheim quite quickly, because I think it reminds me a lot of the same things that the forest did really well. I think it's got a more emphasis on crafting, which I think I don't love, because that's probably Valheim's biggest drawback, is that I feel like the crafting loop is perhaps a little too dragged out, too drawn out. But it's hard to tell, because I have been playing mostly on servers with other people, and so it's almost like that Subnautica thing, right? Where you wonder if the resources are geared towards a single person, and so when there's multiple people sharing those resources, it drags the loop out. I don't know that that's the case. I do feel like we've got enough, probably for at least 2 people, to consistently upgrade this shit, to consistently go to the next tier of gear. But yeah, we've been playing with like 4 or 5 people all in the same server, and I think
is the limit like 10? I think I saw.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
And once you get to that many people, resources can be scarce, especially when you've got people like making shit without saying it and like doing weird stuff. It changes the landscape of how your resources, or how
you turn around and you got a thermonuclear reactor, and you're like, what is, like, we don't need this, we're Vikings.
Well,
why is there now 6 of them?
Why are there 6 fucking water purifiers? Yeah, so we've been playing, but like we've been playing co-op, and it like works the same way the forest worked to me, in that, like, I am loving going back in. I am thinking about the game a lot, and I'm like eager to explore the next area. Like, that's what it is. I think that the forest did so well, was it encouraged you to branch out and explore once you had yourself a fairly decent base. Valheim sort of expands on that by encouraging you to have multiple bases and linking those bases together quite easily via a portal system, but still requiring resources, so that you can't just pop a portal wherever the fuck you are. And then doing some other clever things, like you can't take metals through portals, which requires some pretty clever thinking. You know, suddenly you're in this position where, yeah, you need, like, oh well, we're trying to make. I've got a set of iron armor, right? And if it's turned into armor, you can go through the portal. But if it's raw metal, then you can't take it through. And so we've got iron from one location. We need to somehow get it to the rest of the iron, or we can't turn it into more armor for us to be able to transport it. So we got to, like, there's some creative thinking about how you get around that stuff. I cheated a little bit, I would say, in the sense that while we were earlier on, while we were playing, because we're playing on a listen server. So Dr. E3 Money is running the server that we're all playing on, and I'm extremely attached to that server at this point. Like, we've done a lot of stuff. We've seen a lot. We've uncovered a bunch of the map. We've killed 2 of the bosses, all this kind of stuff. I'm extremely attached to what happens in that server. So I cannot just sort of let go and move to a different server at this point. But at the same time, I felt like we weren't getting enough resources. We didn't have enough, like, I guess, like, it was specifically metals and stuff that we were running short on. So what I did was I made, in my own game, with the gear that I had, I made a fairly decent mining outpost on a server that I made myself. I just went beeline straight for that.
You travel
and
between the two.
And yeah, because you carry whatever you've got on you when you log out.
Yeah.
When you log into a different server, you still have on you. I was able to, like, inject a bunch of resources into the world that I think probably shouldn't have. Like I said, you could probably call it cheating, but I don't care that much because, as I said before, I don't know that the resources are particularly balanced particularly well.
Yeah, it's early access, right? So
exactly,
that stuff could change. They might chuck in, may respawn at some stage, or who knows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we've just been playing. What I really adore about this game is the adventuring, and what I don't care too much about are the survival or crafting aspects. I mean, yeah, I think the best example of this is the difference between, like, the Dr. E3 Drew's server has these, like, giant villages with, like, these huge halls that have everything in them that you need, and we've got, like, a harbor now. Like, we carved out, we stood there with pickaxes carving out this water and, like, next to a pier so that we could park a ship, park 2 ships actually. There's enough space for 2 ships in this harbor, and, like, you dump all your stuff and you can, like, transport goods that way, which is fantastic. That's really cool. It's all fenced off, and yeah, that's pretty cool. And then you go over to my server where I've got my little mining settlement, and it is literally a tower that I came across while I was rolling around that was near a large deposit of copper and a large deposit of tin, and I just built a fire in it. And, like, to get through this tower is literally, like, 90% of the challenge is not landing on the fucking fire that I've just haphazardly dumped in one of the areas, because I needed a fire for the workbench to work, and so that I could so that my character could sleep through the night times. And then outside is just literally just forges and charcoal kilns, so that I can chop down trees nearby. And it's basically like, yeah, the difference is wild. Like, there's architectural beauty in Drew's server, and my one is sometimes you'll catch fire getting out of bed, just because that's how it's set up. Like, I just don't give a fuck about creating these nice villages and stuff. It's purely function, right? Pure function over form, because I don't care to make anything different. So I don't care too much about the crafting or the building or anything like that outside of I'll do it when Drew is like, oh, let's make a harbor. I'll be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Fucking crack out the pickaxe, but most of the time I'm just whatever is most functional. And what I really enjoy is the exploration. So we'll wander through these areas, like trying to find somewhere new. I think we found all the biomes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many there are in the game, but I believe we've found them all. And two of them have enemy. Well, two of them we die in if anything sees us. It is extremely dangerous. So we're clearly out level for that stuff. But at the same time, I feel like we've exhausted there's no use in being in the other biomes anymore. Like, if that's probably my biggest criticism of the game, is that I feel like whereas the forest, you could sort of just, as long as you knew where to find things, the right things, I feel like you could probably just belt through the forest, right? Like the shitty fort that you built at the start of the game is pretty much the same as what you'll have at the end of the game.
The forest,
right? You're not, in the forest, yeah, right. Like you've got your walls and way too many cannibals' heads on sticks, and
because it's not giving you you're not like discovering recipes or anything like that. You kind of just, here's the things you got, build something with it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so like what you've got at the start is what you'll have at the end. Whereas in this, like as you go through, you're unlocking more and more stuff. But once you stop unlocking stuff, once you stop finding stuff to unlock, it feels like you've hit a wall. And I definitely feel like we've hit that wall in the third biome. And I think that's probably my biggest criticism of Valheim. But it's an early access game, and I don't think I think I know there's fuck tons of content in this game already, like loads and loads. They've done a really good job, like out of the gate with that sort of stuff. It's more a question of they need to tweak the curve, the learning curve, the player character learning curve, not the player learning curve, because I found it quite easy and intuitive. Everything sort of just makes sense. You put too low a roof over your fire and you'll get fucking smoked out and die, which is hilarious. Or if you stand in the fire, you'll die. Or if you go into the snow, you'll die. If you spend too long in the water and run out of stamina, you'll die. If you stand under a falling tree, you'll die. If a pig gores you to death, you'll die, etc., etc., etc. There are a billion ways for you to die, and they all sort of make sense when they happen, or when they happen to someone else. But yeah, the player character doesn't learn at the same rate. Like you wind up in this situation where you just sort of capped out on a lot of stuff, and it's hard to tell what you're supposed to do next to get past that hurdle. And then there's the other thing is, I was playing with Junglist, and it's almost like if it was like if everyone had been playing the forest for 3 extra days, right? Like because he's playing on a dedicated server, and they've got this fucking,
there's a team of them.
yeah, there's and they were so far ahead of me, and they knew all this extra shit, and I felt like I was spoiling stuff for myself, which is why I'm very careful about what I talk about. Like, I think there are certain things like the fucking killer mosquitoes. I don't think that's that big a deal to know about, but like the curve of what you can build and what you need to build and stuff like that, because of the way it unlocks recipes. When I was in Junglist's server, I picked up an item and unlocked like a shitload of recipes, and I'm still not 100% certain whether or not everyone playing on Drew's server has the same information at this point. Right, I still may have access to recipes that they don't, and I can't tell. And there's that aspect, like yeah, the forest is a game that you want to play with other people, but you also want to share discovery at the same rate.
Right.
You know, like I think it's less of a situation in Valheim. I think it's a bit easier to drop in and drop out, especially at the point where we are in Valheim at the moment, where I feel capped out. Right, you could probably drop in and you wouldn't have missed much except for the second boss fight, which
Right.
is fucking phenomenal. A spectacular boss fight. That one, like just some of the hairiest shit I've experienced in a game for a long time. Just it just goes like you were there for the first boss fight, right?
No.
No,
Was I?
oh, maybe
I don't think so.
no. Oh. Well, that one is super easy, and it wasn't much, and I was pretty underwhelmed. And the second boss fight is out of fucking control. It is like such a fucking ramp up, but by that time you should have the tool. Like by the time you get to it, you should have the tools required to take it down. And the efforts we had to go to, we had to like build a raft to sail across the sea, and like you reach an ocean biome where the fucking waves are huge, and that felt hairy as shit, and everyone was like holding onto the raft like mast for dear life, and then you get over there and you're like, wow, well, that was pretty fucking scary, the fucking ocean, and you have
Let's hope no one dies.
no idea. Yeah. Shit just escalates so much further. I have no idea what the third boss is going to be like. I cannot imagine that it will be anywhere near as interesting as the second one, because that was fucking crazy. But yeah, it's one of those situations where like that would be probably the only thing you missed out on by not playing anymore. At the same time, I wouldn't want to give any details because experiencing it itself is so fucking huge. It's like that first time you go down into the caves and you see
hear something.
Yeah, you hear something and then see something that's bigger than the cannibals that you're used to, and shit gets fucking like, yeah.
Yeah, you go back up the ladder and leave. Like, I'll come back
as
later.
fast as you fucking can. Yeah. Oh, you body block Joab trying to get up the ladder. But yeah. I think it's absolutely worth the money, but yeah, I also wouldn't like. I would love to have a server of 10 people all playing Valheim at once, but I wouldn't recommend grabbing it and then jumping in alongside us out of nowhere if you haven't played all that other stuff earlier. And that is probably the biggest problem that Valheim has, is that there's so much to the discovery aspect that you would lose a lot of the magic of the game if you were to just skip over it. And I think that's a problem, and I don't know how they solve it.
Right.
Because the forest certainly never solved it. Though, like, we just fucking started over again like 3 times in that game. Because we didn't want to miss anything. I think that's what you'd have to do in Valheim.
Right.
But because the crafting aspect is so much more pronounced, because the resources required are pretty intense, I wouldn't want to start, like, I'm less inclined to start over in Valheim than I was in the forest. Like, there was something fun and funny about, like, making fucking a fort in the forest. It was almost childlike, right? Like that fucking, oh yeah, we'll chop down a bunch of trees and chuck them on a fucking cart, and who built this fucking cart? We don't need a fucking cart. We'll just carry the fucking trees fucking 4 meters. And then you put up your fucking walls and all those fucking head trophies for some reason, and you dump a leg in the water while Job's trying to drink it, and you poison him, and and then you go on and you do the exploration. If you have to start over, that first moment is actually a really good way to get accustomed to the controls and the way that the forest plays again. Whereas if you had to start over in Valheim, when I made my server to just farm up copper and tin, right? That actually wasn't that big a problem. That it was pretty easy for me to just fucking run directly across through the Black Forest to where I knew tin would appear, and then run up and down the coast until I found a copper deposit near the water, so I could mine both pretty easily at once, and sleep, repair my shit, and then that was it. That was all I really required. That wasn't that big a problem. But if you had lovingly crafted a village with these giant walls and all these useful tools and all this kind of stuff, you would be, and if it was and then fucking, I don't know, 5 kilometers away, you also crafted a harbor, and you had another village somewhere else that was good for you were growing a bunch of vegetables and all this kind of stuff. If you had all this stuff going on, you would be significantly less inclined to just start over, I think, That's just how I feel. I'm sure, well, I know that there are people who don't feel the same. That there are people who love the crafting of it, right? Minecraft is an international fucking hit. It's the biggest game in the world. So there's no question that people love some element of it. I wonder where Minecraft would sit in that triangle, right?
I don't know. We should play and find out, Joab.
Oh, look out. in beautiful RTX on 4K, not 4K.
It won't run.
It
might run. Do they have DLSS in Minecraft? I think they do. Surely.
I think they do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah. But when I play Minecraft, I don't build shit. I build the house that I build in Minecraft is a hole in the ground with a fucking bench in it that generally, and a torch on a dirt wall. And when it's nighttime, I will put a dirt block over the top of myself so that monsters can't get into me. And that's it. That's the entirety of my Minecraft building. I just don't care to build because it's not necessary, right? Building is, it becomes necessary eventually when you're trying to go to the Netherrealm, or whatever the fuck it's called. But it's not necessary for a long time. Yeah, of course. Or Injustice. And if all you're playing for is to go spelunking, which is 99% of why I play Minecraft, then all you really need to focus on is if it was on the triangle, it would be survival, exploration focused for me. That's how I play it. I think the beauty of Minecraft is that you can sort of do any of those things. You can make it wherever you want it on the triangle, I suppose. There's definitely people who love that style of game, and I don't think they're wrong for liking it. But I do think that it hurts Valheim's repeatability for me. And
replayability?
because repeated replayability. I don't want to restart ability, I guess. But if we were to get 10 people playing it all at once, either they would have to independently get themselves to the same point that we were at, or we would have to restart, which is something I don't want to do. And that's
because you can create new characters, right?
Yeah. You can create new characters, new worlds, all that kind of stuff pretty easily. But yeah, I just wouldn't want you.
Yeah.
And I think that's tricky.
Right. I played a little bit of it, not as anywhere near as much as you guys. I think I played about 3 hours. I think I'm done with it at this stage. they're saying they're like I don't know, like 60% of the way through, something like that, in terms of
Right.
development. That it's looking like it's going to be a full release next year. I'm assuming that's going to get pushed back at this stage just because of the giant money injection that they've had now. Because it's an indie game, right? Is
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Well, it's
technically?
like yeah. They've got a publisher, but like it's a double A publisher, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're not at least I don't think they're a big studio, right?
No,
Iron Gate.
no,
I've
they're
never
not.
heard of them before. They have a very um, like Iron Gate sounds like a vanilla studio, but it's not. Um,
Mm.
anyway, so yeah, like I've seen what it is. I think it's a good foundation. Like they've got a lot of good things going on there. So I'm happy to just wait for the full release until everything is in the game, all the content is there, and then jump in and check it out. Because like you, I kind of don't want to get burnt out on it and then come back in a year and just be like, oh yeah, it's kind of the same, or not the same, but like I've already spent 40 hours in this. Like then I've got to do that grind again and get back to where I was. I guess similar to what we did with Satisfactory, where we spent like 3 days straight playing that game. Where I'm like, okay, cool. Like I've had my time with it. It's obviously an excellent game. I'll wait for the full release and then we'll jump back in and give it a good run. Um, but at the same time, I mean, like Valheim could be one of those games where in I don't know a couple of months they're like, all right, we're hitting 1.0, but it'll be like a games as a service thing. Like we're just gonna update it,
Yeah,
like
it's never
and
going
put
to
a big new
stop. Yeah,
patch in every month, and then maybe they can go back. But from what I've seen so far, it seems like it's got a bit of ways to go. Like I think there's improvements they could do with stuff like the UI and combat, movement, things like that. I think the buildings.
I think you're wrong about the combat. I think it's deeper than you might think.
No, I
It's
think
quite
just
good.
mean like the jankiness of it. Like it doesn't feel as smooth as what I think it could be because it's got a very I guess like Dark Souls ish vibe with like parries and
Yeah,
like there's a lot more going on there. Bunch of weapons where you can use them as spears and throw them, that sort of thing. It
yeah.
feels
It's
like it
deeper
could be
combat
more.
than the forest.
Yeah,
Like which I think is something.
but I
Yeah,
think the forest combat feels good. Whereas I
right.
don't think this is like it could feel better. Like sometimes you're doing stuff and you're
Sure.
like, I should have hit that thing. Like it doesn't feel
Yeah, that
right.
makes sense.
Just bits and pieces like that. I think the building is really neat. Um, just like the stuff that you can. It seems like there's tons and tons and tons of things you can build in all sorts of different ways. Like when I was fucking with your house the other day, and kept like putting a cover on top of it. But like afterwards, when you guys left, I put a cross on your bed. I don't know if you found that, but
I
that was
did,
just
yes.
like, like I just got random stuff out of my crafting inventory and just built a
Yeah,
cross on your bed and then left. I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm done, guys. See you later.
classic, classic.
Yeah.
I've been. What Luke was doing is because so it's got this smoke system. So when you got a fire, the fire gives off smoke. And if the roof is too low, or if there isn't somewhere for the
Like
smoke to
ventilation.
go, yeah, it will just smoke out the room, and you will die from smoke inhalation. You can actually die from that. And Luke was constantly covering up the chimney, the
Yeah.
makeshift chimney that I created.
And then closing the front door so that when you'd come back, it'd just be a house full of smoke.
So if I wanted to go in there and cook my food, I'd have to stand in the smoke for a little bit. Or if I wanted to dump stuff in the chests, I'd have to, and I'd have to clear the room out before I could go to sleep and stuff.
Hmm.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Although I got you back when I managed to trap you in a smoke-filled house as
You
well.
didn't trap me. I was in there trying to delete the fire, and then I couldn't figure out how to delete the fire, so I was just standing there and I just died. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough.
This like the fucking goofy stuff is fantastic in this game.
Yeah,
Like
we pushed Drew into a fire. Like we pushed him around the map while he was AFK.
that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing.
Oh, I didn't do it. I got him out of the fire.
Yeah, and then
Zio pushed.
Zio.
Pushed him back in.
finish the job. So there was that. There was the other good one. Holy shit! I felt so bad about this. I was too like stunned. We're in the swamps where everything was like two hitting us, and Drew got like poisoned by these leeches that I knew. Like on the video. I'm like, oh, now I'm just supposed to tell you about fucking everything, huh?
Yeah.
But I like afterwards I realized I only knew about leeches because I'd learned about them when playing with Jung, and so yeah, I should have told him.
Right.
And then we go into this swamp crypt, and this like blob jumps at me, and I moved, and it like just landed on Drew instead, and I hadn't said anything at all, and it just fucking took him out. And the reason I didn't say anything was because I was too busy laughing at the circumstances of what was about to go down. It was like just too humorous for me to deal with, and it worked out pretty well.
Right.
Because he got fucking wrecked. It was
Mm.
fantastic. Yeah, it's just it's a classic survival game where just anything can happen. Like not anything, but like loads of different. The way the game world interacts within itself leads to a lot of fucking humorous situations. It is a great, like, Hidden Deep needs that sort of same thing because you still get spooked, right? There's still spooky shit in Valheim and tense, scary moments where you're not sure you're going to make it through the other side, or fuck, you just flat out don't make it through the other side. And that is like that tension is perfectly cut by the goofiness. The goofiness, like the co-op nature allows the goofiness to be sort of shared, right? Spread around so that the tension can actually come through. Which, if it was just a purely single player game, the goofiness wouldn't be shared. It would just be, well, that was dumb. And you'd move on. And then anytime something dumb happened, like you just wind up in this situation where the game would just sort of be dumb, right? You'd be like, oh, yeah, well, that was dumb, but it's a dumb game. And so the tension would never really be able to set in because your mindset would be, well, it's a dumb game.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is Hidden Deep should have co-op.
I mean, I think all survival games should have co-op.
Subnautica.
But yeah. I mean, for me, what's interesting is that just how much this game has blown up over, like, seemingly overnight. And like, what is it about this game that has sort of caught the attention of everybody? Because to me, I think like I don't think the game is doing anything like groundbreaking or like that we haven't seen before. Like most of the stuff that's in here is like, this is in survival games. And you look at like, why did the forest not have this same sort of explosion? Was it because it was too horror focused, or is it Valheim maybe focused more towards kids, and like just because of the art style and that sort of thing? So yeah, I'm just curious as to why it's been sort of picked up so big, because it seems like I don't know what it is on Steam charts, but I feel like I'm just seeing it everywhere. It's third. Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's huge.
I feel like in 2 weeks' time, this thing's going to be huge. It's going to it could be the thing kids are talking about at school, and maybe to me that is why it's just grabbed so many people, is because of the art style. It's not like it's this like bright, vibrant sort of. It's not Minecraft looking, like it's not pixel, but it is. Like
it's low res.
Yeah,
it's not like
you don't need a beast computer.
It's not voxels, but it is low res, sort of stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, they seem to just gotten in a really good spot of being like, we know, or maybe they didn't even know, like they've got a good audience to, like a wide audience to go for. Whereas I feel like a game like Subnautica or The Forest is a lot more narrow because it's got such heavy horror elements that it's not going to appeal to such a huge net. So yeah, I don't know. That's cool. Anyway, Valheim. It's out now on Steam, in early access. If you want to check it out, is it worth the 20? Is it
Oh,
$25, Job?
I absolutely think it is.
Right,
But
it's $20. 25-ish, 30-ish if you're in Australia.
do
Cool.
it. Yeah,
Drew and
it's
Jay are playing right now.
right now.
Right now.
The cheeky boys. Yeah.
It's news time, Job. A lot of stuff going on this week. Pretty busy, actually. Let's go through some of the highlights that we've got down here. In an earnings call, Activision Blizzard has said that Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 are not going to be releasing this year, most likely.
Yeah.
Does that, for me, I think Diablo 4 is not as surprising as Overwatch 2. What's your sort of take on this one?
Yeah, I'm basically in the same boat. I am honestly shocked that Overwatch 2 isn't going to come out this year. It feels like I mean, obviously, there's a chance that it would have been a holiday 2021 release, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID happened.
Sure.
And that has created challenges. If they're on a timeline to make a holiday release happen, there's a reasonable chance that it's simply pushed that out a couple of months and we will get an early 2022 release. But at the same time, I am surprised that they did not push to get to the holiday 2021. I mean, it's good that they didn't make people crunch, but Overwatch has been stagnating for a little while now. So it's one of those ones where it's surprising that they didn't do it.
Right. I mean,
Diablo.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I guess it's surprising because we are under the impression that it's all hands on deck for Overwatch 2, right? And that Overwatch was not going to be getting any more major updates. And the last update they got was last year. And so that means that it's possible now there's going to be more than a year's worth of time between the Overwatch update and Overwatch 2 releasing. And so that's a huge amount of time going by where nothing's being done in the Overwatch community.
Yeah.
So that's why I guess the thought was that this was going to be a this year game.
Yeah, 100%. Diablo 4, less so. Not that surprised. And with the news of Diablo 2 or the strong rumors of a Diablo 2 remaster coming in,
yeah,
that might be. I was pitching when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. I was pitching that it might be used, a la Modern Warfare remake or remaster, but it might be used to sort of tide people over until Diablo 4 instead, which makes some sense,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're going to find out some more news this next week, actually, when BlizzCon Online kicks off. They release the official schedule today.
Cool.
Don't really know what it's going to be in there. Like there's some placeholder stuff. So yeah, I'm keen to see that they're definitely showing off what's going on with Diablo and Overwatch. And I guess World of Warcraft as well, the big three. And I saw some StarCraft stuff in there, but yeah, I don't know if there's going to be any big surprises apart from what we already know is coming from them. So yeah, I don't know. I'm keen to watch that stuff. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that Diablo is maybe early next year or something like that. That'd be That'd be cool, but we'll have to wait and see. What else do we have here? Next up, we've got Cyberpunk. Well, not even Cyberpunk news. CD Projekt Red. It is sort of Cyberpunk related. CD Projekt Red was targeted in a cyber attack over the last couple of days. They found that their computer servers had been breached, and a text file had been left on their servers, basically saying that they had stolen or taken source code for Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher 3, Gwent, and an unreleased version of The Witcher 3, including documents relating to accounting, legal department, HR, administration, investor relations, and a bunch of other things that were on these servers. They also basically encrypted all of the servers involved, which meant that CD Projekt needed to restore all that content or all those servers from backups. This was all verified through. I think Bloomberg did a piece on it as well, saying they verified that this was a thing that was going on, that the teams were running around trying to fix all this stuff. I guess what isn't verified as of yet is whether or not this stuff was taken. Cyberpunk, Witcher, Gwent, and everything else, like full source code. That's a big issue. And they were basically demanding money in the form of 48 hours, or wanting money within 48 hours.
Within ransom.
They would leak it. So I guess we're going to find out soon whether or not this is real, or
it's already been ransomed.
Has it?
Bidding has begun, I believe. Yes. The source code for Gwent is being auctioned on a pirate scene forum. Like right now, I believe.
Right. This must be today, sort of news-ish.
Yeah, earlier today. Yeah, just before we started the podcast. So it begins. I guess it was, there's some veracity to the claims, or we will find out eventually. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that this is not the first time someone has breached CDPR's security, which is insane to me. How does this keep happening? My theory was that this wasn't real originally.
Conspiracy Joab.
Conspiracy Joab, that they were about to announce that they were delaying the second big patch that would include a couple of mission bug fixes and otherwise nothing else. And that they were using this as an excuse. But I guess I was wrong on that count.
Right.
I suppose. Yeah.
For me, the biggest thing I sort of see coming out of this in relation to their future of Cyberpunk, at least, is their multiplayer. With the source code out there, that's a big problem. They're basically now, you've got insight into how this game works and things you can do as a hacker to try and get around those systems by being able to see how this game works. And so if they were looking at doing like a GTA Online or something like that in the form of a Cyberpunk game, that's like blown a huge hole in their plans, as far as, unless this is super old code stuff they've already changed. Like we saw this happen with Valve and Half-Life back in the day, and that caused massive problems for them. Like that source code was all Half-Life and Counter-Strike related, and that being one of their biggest games to come out, it was huge headaches. They had to go in and make massive changes to that in order to get it out. So yeah, I don't know. I guess by the time people will hear this, we'll know whether or not the Cyberpunk stuff is, like, if they actually got everything. CD Projekt has basically said that, like, there's no proof that any personal information is stolen, but I mean, this could get a lot bigger and worse for them as time goes on. So I guess we'll keep an eye out for it and see what unfolds. because it's not a good situation for them to be in. They just can't catch a break. All right. Next up, we've got some Warner Brothers news. You know that Nemesis system, Joab, from Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and Middle-earth: Shadow of War. We're always wondering, why the fuck does anybody not use this system? Like, it's good. It's good, and we don't see it anywhere. Not even Warner Brothers uses it anywhere,
Yep.
other than those two games. It turns out that since 2016, WB has been trying to patent this system and has failed numerous times until recently, where it was granted for them. And that basically, I don't know. I think this is bad for the industry as a whole.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
Because what they're doing now is saying that, like they send over like diagrams of like, hey, this is like the Nemesis system, and anybody copies this sort of structure and layout and how the system will work, then we can sue them or like whatever. Like that, you can't use this. Basically, I think that holds the industry back as a whole, because the whole thing about video games is taking ideas and iterating on them and making them better, and trying like putting twists and turns on them and things like that. And by starting to patent game ideas is not a path I think the industry should be going down. Could you imagine if this became the norm and all of a sudden the next Minecraft, or if PUBG patented Battle Royale, or Minecraft patented crafting, or any of that sort of stuff, like what that would do to creativity.
Where would Shadow of War or Shadow of Mordor be if someone had patented the open world action adventure, third person open world action adventure in the first place? You know, like it's not like they've sprung fully formed from their loins in the first place. Like the Nemesis system exists in a game that iterates upon decades of like game design. So it's a garbage fucking move. So a really cunt act from WB. Yeah, like it's gross as shit.
And I think it's the type of thing where now that it has been approved, like what's to stop other studios being like, all right, well, let's patent this thing that we've got going, and then going in there. I saw one recently. I feel like it was Rockstar, because it was an open world thing, but the way like AI traffic behaved or something like that, like they had a patent for that. Just I don't know, man. Like it's not a good, it's not a good area we want to see publishers go down, where they start patenting.
What if CDPR patented their police system? You know, jeez,
no one will want to copy that though.
Fucking how would the world exist if the world's worst police system didn't crop up everywhere? Gutted.
Right.
Anyway,
it's weird. All right, next up we've got E3 news. Apparently E3 is happening this year, Joe, but it will not be happening as a physical event. Instead, it will be a digital event. So this comes from leaked documents sent to VGC, who have broken a lot of stories over the last year that we've talked about here. And what this document talks about is like 3 days worth of live streaming coverage, and going online, like all digital for E3. I guess some of the interesting stuff that is in here is that they are charging an exorbitant amount of money for developers or publishers to use their space, their online space. The number being thrown around was in the 6-figure mark.
What? Really?
And they actually got a comment from one, it didn't say who, but it said one major games company that VGC spoke to said that it would run its own separate digital showcase rather than paying the sum of 6 figures to join the E3 2021 schedule. That is nuts. Especially considering that like E3's done such a bad job over the last year of trying to even move to an all digital platform. Like we've seen the stuff that Jeff Keighley has done with his digital showcases that he's done, whether it's the Game Awards or the summer games event that he did last year, which was extremely successful, which he did in place of sort of like E3, and then like all the discussions about the ESA, which is who runs E3, trying to get a relationship going with ReedPop, who works on all the PAX expos, and that falling apart, and then all the stuff with Jeff Keighley falling apart. Like, it just seems like they don't have a grasp on how to run any of this stuff. So I've got zero confidence that they know what they're doing for this year either. And also, publishers don't need E3 at this stage. They've done their own events online. They can do their own events online. There's no reason for them to join this. I think at this point, like E3, even like as a digital platform at least, I don't think E3 is going to be successful unless something wild happens, like someone crazy jumps on board. But I just don't see why you would do that. Like, what is their plan?
Dead on arrival. No chance. It's done.
Yeah.
Just
like,
call it time of death. E3 2019, you reckon? I reckon.
Yeah.
That was it.
They're talking about having the media week still, like the I guess they usually call it like awards week, where they get media to play it a week or two before, and then like that sort of stuff, and then they'll do the showcase during E3. But like, I think it just depends on who's on board. We got to see if, like, Sony's obviously pulled out years and years ago. Nintendo does their own thing. Is Xbox gonna do a some sort of showcase, or is Bethesda gonna do a stream, or Warner Brothers gonna do a stream this year, or are they just happy running this stuff without anybody else around them, having it all to themselves and just doing it in their own fashion without having to spend a bunch of money on this stuff? Because I think we've seen over the past year that it's possible to do without E3. Like, it can be done. So
absolutely.
I guess we'll find out more as a bunch more information comes out. Next up, we got some Borderlands news. I like talking about this because it's just it's nuts. I don't know what is going on here. Jamie Lee Curtis has been cast in Borderlands film and will play Tannis. We've got Kevin Hart now as Roland. Kate Blanchett as, was it Lilith? And now Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis, with Eli Roth directing, and the writer is the guy that did Chernobyl. Is it Mason? I think his name was.
Mason, yeah. Craig Mason, yeah.
Yeah. This gets crazy every week. I don't know what is happening here.
Right. I can't even fathom what will happen.
What is
next
this
week.
film? Yeah.
Like, I'm starting to like Arnie is going to get announced as Brick, like just out of nowhere. They'll just be like, no, it's Arnie. Yeah, fuck it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
Or like, yeah, like,
or to be like, we've blown our budget. It's actually just a brick, and we've drawn a face on it.
Yeah, genius. Yeah, it just like keeps escalating. Clint Eastwood. He's an old school action star. I'll just get him. Clint Eastwood is starring as Brick, and you're like,
it's not
weird.
Mordecai.
No, Brick. Like, you're like, I guess, or Burt Reynolds. Is Burt Reynolds still alive, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, is he?
Yeah.
Fuck. Is he?
Oh, maybe
is
not.
he? Was he died in 2018? Oh,
no.
Bert. Oh no, not like this. God damn it. They've reanimated his corpse. And he'll be playing Brick.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. This movie's fucking I can't at this point I just don't know what it is. I cannot picture what this film will be. I'm out of ideas.
I don't know. And they haven't announced everybody yet. That's the thing. Like, there's still so many more characters to go. Oh man, like is Moxie gonna be in this? Who's Moxie? Or who's Claptrap and all this sort of stuff? Oh, um, at this point, like, is this going to be a weekly thing, or like every 2 weeks, like new person's cast? Like, is this how they're dishing out the media, getting people hyped about it?
Right. It's working. It's
It's
genius.
working. We're going to be a Borderlands film podcast by the end of this year.
Basically, yeah.
And then also,
100%.
how much money is this thing going to cost? Like,
Oh yeah.
is this why Embracer bought Gearbox? Is because they're like, fuck, they need more money.
By the time like it actually finishes principal photography, it will be cheaper to actually fly to a vault planet to try to get the money.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah, I got no idea. This movie doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
It's killing me.
No. All right, we'll keep our ears out for that one. See what else keeps coming up over the next couple of months. Otherwise, I think that is it. Anything else that's come up while we've been talking?
Did you see that Terraria dev announced that he's no longer, like, Terraria will no longer be on Stadia? Good lord.
Right, yeah, I saw this.
The entire system is just a mess. Yeah, so basically his account got locked on Google, and he's just been getting the fuck about. And so he's like, you know what? Fuck it. Terraria's not coming to Stadia. Yeah, I guess. Fuck you.
All right. We do have breaking news.
Okay.
There was some news I saw earlier today, which I didn't put down here because I'm not sure if it was credible. It was The Last of Us The Last of Us TV series news related to who is going to be playing Joel. This was from a website that said Mahershala Ali was going to be playing Joel. It was a rumor. I didn't think it was worth talking about, but I've just seen Troy Baker retweet a post from Collider saying that Ellie has been cast as Game of Thrones star Bella Ramsey. So I don't know how credible that Mahershala Ali thing is now, because getting two reports out of a couple of hours, one of them seems pretty credible. The other one I have no idea about. So, I mean, it's possible. She played. Who was she in Game of Thrones?
Lyanna Mormont. Yeah. Oh, she's that fucking. She's the chick, the lady who was like a mad boss chick for the Starks, right? I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
This is from Hollywood Reporter, so this one is legit. Yeah, all right, that's interesting. I wonder how far off we are from this Joel announcement, or if it actually is Mahershala Ali.
I don't think it is.
What are you thinking about that casting rumor?
I think he's a fucking spectacular actor, but I don't think they're going to do it. I'd love to see it, because could you imagine?
Oh,
could you imagine the internet reaction? Holy shit, it'd be juicy just for that alone. But yeah,
yeah. All right, I guess we might be talking about this casting news for the rest of.
We are a video game movie casting podcast from. Video game movie casting and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate podcast from here on out. Like, those are the two main topics that we talk about, I suppose.
I mean,
and occasionally.
Or the Craig Mason podcast, because he's doing both The Last of Us and Borderlands.
Nice. All right. Time to go watch Scary Movie 3 and 4.
Okay. Actually, this Hollywood Reporter does mention Mahershala Ali. It says, Ali did circle the role, sources say, but a deal ever came to fruition. I think that was supposed to say never. It says ever here. So maybe that didn't come out, but maybe they only cast one person at this stage. So we'll see. At least, like Hollywood Reporter is saying that is something that they were talking about. Whether or not that has happened, not sure yet. All right, so keep people posted on that one. Exciting times. That is the news. Unless, do you want to say anything else about Terraria? Other than
It's just
Google's
shitty.
bunch of dickheads.
He's still fucking blocked, which is bananas. And yeah, they haven't done anything about it. It's just wild.
Yeah,
Like it's quite scary that it could happen to
any developer. Yeah,
like anyone really. Like it could happen to you or me. Like that's bananas. All of my shit is on Google. When this news first came out, I actually went through and backed up stuff off Google. I made sure to have backups off of Google because I did have, because Google was my primary backup system, and I'm like, oh, I need to not have that as my primary. Like, if I get banned from that, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Now I'd still be fucked, but I wouldn't be completely cooked. I'd be able to come back from it.
I think the only thing I'm a bit like, there's two sides of this story is that he hasn't really said why he was banned.
Right.
Like he hasn't, I don't know, at least when I was reading this stuff a couple of days ago, there was no, like, he wasn't saying that like, I did this and it was accident or anything like that. It's just like, I was banned and they won't respond to me, the type thing where it is possible that he did something. I don't know. It's hard to say at this stage. Anyway, it's a fuck situation. Okay.
It is.
Let's get out of here. Do some questions.
Baz writes, hey, Luke, how many guns do you own now? If none, have you used one since the move?
How many guns were in Borderlands? A bajillion? Something like that.
Have you been shooting since you moved to America?
No, I've been inside my house for fucking a year. It'll be a year, like next month?
Yeah, it will be.
March? April?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I've been shooting noobs in Call of Duty. That's the closest I've come.
Face mask on and going on down to a gun range or some shit.
Yeah, I don't think there's getting gun ranges in San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't think San Fran has any. I remember when I went over for Lawbreakers.
Yeah,
we had to go a fair way out of the city to get to a gun range to go shoot some guns, but we did shoot some guns, and we got to shoot a fucking M60. That thing was fucking bananas.
There's a pistol range out just past Oakland. It's still like a 50-minute drive.
Yeah. So I guess no.
No. But I think I went in Vegas one year when we went to E3.
Yeah.
I remember that. We were shooting clowns or something like that, I think. I've got it. I don't know. It might be here still somewhere. Or maybe I've gotten rid of it. Anyway. Cool. No, I don't have any.
Got it. Nice Dico writes, Dear The Gap, in 2020 I built my first PC. I've had PCs in the past, but I'd never put it together myself. I went with a 3070 as I feel it will be an excellent card at 1080p for years to come. I have a 4K monitor. I guess I'm not very sensitive to in-game resolution. Maybe my eyes are fucked. My question is, do you guys play at 4K? And are you guys sensitive to higher resolutions? Does it really make that much more difference to you? Thanks, Nick. I play at 1440p. With the NVIDIA software, you can actually force a monitor at a lower resolution to display at a higher resolution. So I can force my monitor to display at 4K if I am so inclined. I do when I am not playing games, but I play games at 1440p because frame rate over resolution every fucking day of the week, and the 3070 will definitely. The 3070 probably carry at 1440p if you were interested in doing it. I do think it provides clarity, a significant amount of clarity, especially in shooters. So I think it's worth it for that. But outside of that, I don't think higher resolution is always that big an improvement. Like, it definitely looks better, but I would always prioritize frames over resolution over pixels. Luke, your thoughts?
I think it depends on the game for me. I like if I'm playing a third-person action game or something, I want to be hitting at least between 70 and 90.
Right.
So I'll generally tinker around with what I've got, but most of the time I'm playing at 1440. I think Call of Duty for me is on 4K by default, but that runs at anywhere between 100 and something frames to, I don't know, 130, depending on how hot we are dropping. Yeah, generally 1440p. I think my monitor is only 1080, so I'm doing that same thing you just talked about with the NVIDIA upscaling. Is that what they call it? I can't remember. Yeah, you can enable it in your is it called GeForce Experience?
Yeah,
Is that
not the experience? No, the other one, the fucking
control panel.
Control panel. Yeah, NVIDIA control panel. When you right click on it in your taskbar, you can find it. Just pop a quick Google. It'll tell you how to do it. Or a DuckDuckGo, I guess, or a Bing. Fuck Google. But
it's called Dynamic Super Resolution. You can enable it.
Okay.
Which is what mine is. I've got a bunch of different settings in there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make custom resolutions in it and everything. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you're going, like, if you feel like you're, I don't know what frame rates your what hertz refresh rate your monitor's capable of, but if it's, I don't know, if you're consistently getting 60 plus, try or 100 plus, create a custom resolution, have a look at how it looks at 1440p, and you might feel that you're getting more clarity and that it is a worthwhile upgrade. But if it's not, then yeah, I think the 37 to 70 is a fucking beast card. I think you'd slap games at 1440p.
Got to be able to buy it though, Joab. That's the problem.
Nico's already got it, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they were selling some here the other day in the Bay Area, and you needed to buy a CPU, a motherboard, an SSD, CPU, motherboard, SSD,
RAM,
and something else. Yeah, memory, with it as well. Like as a bundle, they're only selling it as bundles. Fuck, and they just jacked the prices up recently, man. Like that is, I've given up at this stage. I think like I'll wait for the next. Not that I've been actively looking, but if one was to bob up, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay. But at this point, I'm like, I'll just wait for the next lot. Like, it's not worth it. It's the price is just so nuts for the 3080s at least. It's just ridiculous. So,
yep.
All right, good stuff. Any other questions?
Yes. Johnny Bravo says, "Hey gents, what's coming out first, Star Citizen or Party Animals?" This one hurts. How can you say this? How can you do this to me? Party Animals, obviously, because Star Citizen is never coming out. And I feel like I just walked into the punchline of this joke, but I just saw Morkai has written trick question, neither. Harsh. Party Animals will come out. I will fucking will it into existence if I have to. Consider me attempting, like, I've now begun willing it into existence. So when it does come out, you can directly thank me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the day. It'll be like 15 years from now when there's no such thing as video games anymore. And it's just Star Citizen. That is all anyone ever plays. It's like Ready Player One, but Ready Player One is Star Citizen, and so we can go back and roll the tape on Joab saying how this game will never come out and it'll be the worst game ever, and that's all Joab plays now, and it's his favorite game.
I'll be playing Magic the Gathering inside of Star Citizen. God,
awesome. All right,
good stuff.
let's get out of here. If you want to send us any questions, you can do so via our email, thegapodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to our Discord page, thegapodcast.com/Discord. You can leave us questions in there, like those other fine people have done today. Or you can just jump in and just shoot the shit. People talking about all sorts of things in there, or playing games. I think some of the guys are in there right now playing Valheim. It looks like. Yep. You can also find us if you want to listen to previous podcasts on iTunes, Android, Windows Store, Spotify, YouTube, all places you get podcasts from under the Gap or the GA Podcast. If you do have a moment, please rate and review the show. Helps other people find us. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/the GA Podcast, twitter.com/the GA Podcast, or you can go to our YouTube page, thegapodcast.com/YouTube, watch the podcast in video form. You go to our website, thegapodcast.com. It's got links to all those things we just talked about on the show, including previous episodes. If you want to go back and, I don't know, revisit the Game of the Year show that went for 8 hours. True. That is up there. You can go do that. Yep. And that is all thanks to our Patreon members who help keep this show going and the website running. You can go to patreon.com/the GA Podcast, become a member over there. Get the podcast a little bit earlier. Usually goes up a couple of hours after we finish recording this, once it's finished processing. That Game of the Year show took, I don't know if I said this last time, took fucking ages to process. So long. I reckon it took longer than it did for us to record it. It took ages. Yeah. So I think, I don't know why. Anyway, it took me a while. Anyway, that's thanks to our Patreon members who help keep that going. So thank you very much. Anything you want to pimp out for this week you've been working on at all? No. Where can people
play Valheim? At Joey Jojo on Twitter.
Yeah. What's your IP address if people want to join?
Yeah. I don't know.
Why not? You don't want to get CD Projekt Red?
What are they going to fucking blackmail me for? Oh, yeah, we've got your Valheim review. We'll release it to the public. That'll probably be the biggest fucking release of one of my reviews ever. No, just join us in the Discord if you want to join. We can get you in. And then if you troll like Luke does, then we'll just fucking ban you.
Yep. Okay, you can find me twitter.com/Luke Lawrie, LAWRIE. And that is it for this week. We'll be back with some more Borderlands and Last of Us news next week, most likely, by the way things are shaping up. Otherwise, see you then. Yeah.